A very good morning to you all. We are back with another workshop of Touch the Peak Annual Job Fair and Entrepreneurial Ventures online workshop series organized by the Career Skills Development Society of the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. As undergraduates, I'm sure that our audience would agree with me in the fact that an online interview is one thing that we can be assured of facing in the future for most of us. So, as a small support we can give you, we decided to add this topic to the annual Job Fair and Entrepreneurial Ventures workshop series. To many of us, an interview seems to be a nerve-bending experience. But we hope that after today's workshop, our audience will get the potential to prepare and face an online interview with calm and confidence instead of nervousness. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Professor Sudat Manjula Amarasena, the Director of the Career Guidance Unit and the Head of the Department of Decision Sciences in the Faculty of Management Studies and Commerce, Mrs. Chaturangani Tennakon, Career Advisor of the Career Guidance Unit and the Senior Treasurer of the Career Skills Development Society to this valuable workshop. Then, we warmly welcome Ms.Wenuri Wanniarachchi, the Senior Executive of Human Resources Development in Mars Holdings Private Limited. Also, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome the organizing committee members and all the audience who joined us today. You are indeed the heart and soul of this workshop series. Now, let us witness a short video clip on Touch the Peak Annual Job Fair and Entrepreneurial Ventures organized by the Career Skills Development Society. Now, we would like to take this opportunity to present our prestigious sponsors for Touch the Peak Annual Job Fair and Entrepreneurial Ventures 2022. Before we begin the session, I would like to request all the participants to stay muted to avoid any disturbances. And please remember, all participants will receive an e-certificate. Stay tuned till the end of the session. Now, please allow me to introduce our resource person as the next phase in our workshop. She has completed her MSc in Human Resource Development and Management from the University of Salford in Manchester in 2021 and her professional qualification in HRM from the Institute of Personnel Management in Sri Lanka in 2018. Please welcome Ms.Wenuri Wanniarachchi, the Senior Executive Human Resource Development at Mars Intimates Private Limited. Good morning, dear madam.
Hi, Asini. Good morning. And thank you so much for the welcome note. Are we good to start?
Yes, madam. The session is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. So before I start the session, I would also like to thank Asini for the welcome note and also Mr. Sudat, Ms. Chaturangani, and also Senura, who has been in touch. And thank you so much for the invitation. Very happy to be here representing MAS. I hope this will be a valuable session to all the 150 participants that are connected with us today. And well, I heard that there are some difficulties in connecting due to the power cuts and everything that's going on. So I suppose we will always allow other students to also join in between the session. And I heard that the session is also going to be recorded. Also, please feel free to ask any questions. Please stop me in between, or you can also wait for the end of the session. I will conduct the session in both English and Sinhala, just so I make sure that I, give a better understanding on what we are talking about today to the audience here present. So before we start, I would like to just give you a small introduction about myself. As Asini mentioned, I'm Wenuri Wanniarachchi, currently working for MAS Intimates in the capacity of a senior executive in the Human Resources Department, overlooking the talent acquisition for executive and above in front-end operations. I think that introduction would be more than enough. So I will be sharing the presentation for today. Somebody please confirm if I am audible and also if you can see the presentation. Let me share my screen. Am I audible and can you see the screen?
Yes, madam, you are audible and we can see the screen.
Right. Thank you so much. So it's a pretty interesting session. Well, being in the talent acquisition team for about 3 years, I think we had to go through major changes with the onset of COVID. And these changes we never expected. And we ourselves were not ready to, onboard ourselves with these changes. So we had to change a majority of our processes from being physical to going online. And I suppose even for the students who are present here today, it has been the same, where you were used to, coming to the university, attending lectures, meeting friends, meeting your lecturers. But suddenly, with COVID hitting all over the world, it became a global pandemic where we had to stay home. We were not allowed to go out. I think the times are improving. We are at a better state now, but still we have very limited access to physical activities. So with all of that going on, we had to suddenly change
Excuse me, madam, you are muted.
so sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, madam, now you are audible.
All right, sorry. So I'll start from the top. I think it's a pretty interesting session since after COVID, we had to really change everything that we do and the way we look at everything in our day to day life. So before COVID, we had all our physical gatherings to attending lectures, coming in for physical interviews, meeting candidates, and we had like a really good social life that was going on. But with the onset of the pandemic, we had to suddenly change and we had to adapt to technologies, to online platforms, from being physical. And this was quite a challenge. I think across the globe, it was a challenge because we were not ready to adapt to it, right? But today, I think after 2 years, we have, grown to like online platforms more, and we are less physically interacted with people. However, I think things are going back to normal, and I suppose we can call candidates back to physical interviews very soon, but it's very restricted. So, since majority of the companies find it more flexible and easier to have online interviews, and it is also convenient for the candidates to connect online, most of the companies or most of the organizations are still following the method of online interviews rather than following the old way of bringing in candidates physically. So, starting the presentation, like I said before, we'll go with English and Sinhala both. And if you have any questions, please stop me and ask questions. It's an open forum, and I don't think anyone needs to shy away from asking questions. You can post your question on the chat box also. So, as and when I get time to answer the questions, I will take it on. Right. So, just to give an introduction in Sinhala also, අද අපි කතා කරන්නේ අපි කොහොමද online interview එකකට face කරන්නේ. නැත්තම් අපි මොනවාද online interview එකකදී කළ යුතු දේවල් නොකළ යුතු දේවල්. සහ online interview එකකට prepare වෙන්නේ කොහොමද? අපි ලෑස්ති වෙන්නේ කොහොමද? මොකද COVID ආවට පස්සේ මුළු ලෝකෙම ගොඩක් විදියට වෙනස් වුණා. අපි ඉස්සර සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ෆිසිකලි හම්බ වෙලා කරන දේවල් අපිට තවදුරටත් කරන්න බැරි වුණා. තාමත් අපිට මේ දේවල් කරන්න පුළුවන් බොහොම සීමා සහිත වටපිටාවක. ඉතින් මේ ඔන්ලයින් ඉන්ටර්විව්ස් කියන එකට කියන්නේ අපිට යූස් වෙන්න නැත්නම් අපිට පුරුදු වෙන්නත් කම්පැනි එකක් විදියට ටිකක් කාලයක් ගියා. මොකද අපිටත් පුරුදු වෙලා තිබුණේ කැන්ඩිඩේට්ව ඔෆිස් එකට ගෙන්නලා හම්බ වෙලා එයත් එක්ක කතා කරලා මූණට මූණ දැකලා එතකොට අපිට ඒ වටපිටාවෙන් ඔන්ලයින් පරිසරයකට යන්න අපි කොච්චර ලොකු ඕගනයිසේෂන් එකක් වුණත් ඒ process එක වෙනස් වෙන එක අපිටත් challenge එකක් වුණා. නමුත් අපි ඒකෙන් ගොඩක් දේවල් ඉගෙන ගත්තා සහ ඔන්ලයින් ඉන්ටර්විව්ස් මගින් අපිට ගොඩක් දේවල් ලේසි සහ පහසුවෙන් කරගන්න හැකියාවක් හම්බුණා. ඒක නිසා අපිට COVID දැනට අපි ඉන්නේ බොහොම අඩු තත්වයක වුණත් තාමත් අපි ඕගනයිසේෂන් එකක් විදියට ඔන්ලයින් ඉන්ටර්විව්ස් කියන ක්‍රමය භාවිතා කරනවා. So, let's start the session. Right, so the content of the program, just to take you all through very quickly, today we will be talking about how to define your career path and why companies conduct interviews, how you should get yourself prepared and what you need to do during an interview, and the tips for a successful interview and the do's and the don'ts, right? So very briefly, this is what we are going to talk about, and moving on to the next slides, you will see in detail what areas we get to cover under this particular subtopic. Right, so the first question that we would like to ask from you is, what do companies expect from you? What can you give a company, and why will you stand out from all the other candidates who apply for a job? So අපි අහන පළවෙනි question එක තමයි, ඕගනයිසේෂන් එකක් විදියට කැන්ඩිඩේට් කෙනෙක්ගෙන් අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ මොනවාද? අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන දේ ඔයාට දෙන්න පුළුවන්ද? සහ අනිත් ඇප්ලයි කරලා තියෙන සියලුම කැන්ඩිඩේට්ස්ලා අතරින් ඔයා ඇයි විශේෂිත කෙනෙක් වෙන්නේ? සහ අපි ඇයි ඔයාව මේකට සිලෙක්ට් කරගන්න ඕනේ? Right? Itin, we listed out some of the maybe competencies or some of the areas that we look at as an organization when we want to interview a candidate and select a candidate for a particular vacancy that we have. So starting with commitment. Commitment is a big area, right? So with everything that's going on in the world right now, especially in Sri Lanka, right? You have to become a candidate who can give more than the 100%. The 100% is the bare minimum right now. You have to be able to step up, you have to be able to take responsibilities, and you have to show that commitment, right? When you are, even from the time that you're writing your CV to the time that you're going through an interview, commitment is a key factor that you need to show from within yourself and make sure that the interviewer feels that you're a committed person. Then moving on to the next ones, potential and performance. So potential, we have defined it as having or showing the capacity to develop. So no one is 100% perfect, right? We all have areas that we should improve. Similarly, we have good things that we have within ourselves that we can do better, we can develop, right? So, potential is ideally where we look at you as a person who can grow, who can do more, right? Then performance is actually related to everything that you have been doing. If you have worked previously or if you have been a project leader, we look at the outcome, right? So you have been given duties, you have been given responsibilities. How well have you done it? Have you achieved your goals or have you not achieved your goals? If you have not achieved, what were the reasons? Was it teamwork? Was it, I know you mean like maybe it can be a delay of resources. It can be anything, right? But even though you may not have achieved the goal, the way that you have worked towards achieving it is much more important, right? So that is what you have to always understand. It's always not about reaching the goal, it's not about achieving the 100%. It's about how did you get your team together, what leadership qualities did you show, what did you do when things went wrong, right? So those are key factors that we look at for in candidates when we do interviews. Then passion, very, very, very important. So you should know why you need it and why you are doing it. What is the purpose, right? Just because you're studying a degree in human resources, it doesn't really mean that you have to be a human resources executive, right? There is nothing like that. We have people who studied engineering who are human resources executives at the moment, right? So everything that you study doesn't have to particularly go in hand with your job or what you like to do. Qualifications are always, it's like an additional benefit or an additional thing that add value to your curriculum vitae, right? Or to yourself. To be educated is always a good thing, but it doesn't mean that just because you learn that subject you have to be employed within that frame of education only, right? So this is where passion comes into play. You might be studying human resources, but you might be passionate about, wildlife photography. Maybe it's hiking, maybe it's, all these adventurous things that you want to do. So go for it. Why not? Go and work for a company or go and, be a part of a team that is involved in these kind of things, right? There is no standard as such where we encourage any candidate to go ahead and apply for the same area of, job role with which is whatever is related to the educational background that you're coming from. But just because you're passionate about something, it doesn't mean that you can just go and jump into it and do it just because you like it. You still need to have the background knowledge about that particular area. If you're interested in wildlife photography, learn something about it, see how the world works around it, and then it will be easier for you to work towards your passion. And if you are going to join a company, it can be a company in any industry, right? Apparel, IT, anything, right? Just always ask the question why. Why do you need to be a part of this industry? Why do you want to be a part of this organization, right? Are you really, really passionate about it? Or are you coming or are you applying for it because there are no other options, because your parents want you to do it, because it's the educational background you're coming from, right? So be very careful when you are selecting whatever you're going to apply for, and if you're not passionate about it, please don't do it because you're going to be frustrated along the way, right? Then values. So values is something that is owned to each person, and also its values also come in hand with the way the organization works, the organization's culture, right? Then competencies, the last one. So competencies, as we have explained, it's interrelated attributes including knowledge, skills, and abilities that drives behavior to perform a job. So the competencies, some competencies you might have it within yourself, but some competencies will be developed while you are performing the job, sorry, or while you are doing an internship, or as and when you get into a job experience, and depending on the role that you're doing, competencies will be developed, right? So just to briefly explain the same thing in Sinhala, අර ඉස්සෙල්ලා කිව්වා වගේ අපි ඕගලන්ගෙන් මොනවද බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ කියන එක ගැන තමයි අපි කතා කරේ. එතකොට මෙතන අපි දීලා තියෙනවා areas 6ක්. පළවෙනිම දේ commitment. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයාගේ කැපකිරීම සහ ඔයා කොච්චර කැප වෙන්න ලෑස්තිද කියන එක. සහ potential. ඔයා පුද්ගලයෙක් විදියට අපිට කොච්චර පෙන්නනවද ඔයාට grow වෙන්න ඉඩ තියෙනවා. ඔයා ඉගෙන ගන්න කැමති කෙනෙක්. ඒ වගේම performance කියන්නේ ඔයාට යම් දෙයක් අපි යම් කිසි කාර්යයක් දුන්නොත් ඔයාට කොච්චර හොඳට ඒ ටාස්ක් එක ඩිලිවර් කරන්න පුළුවන්ද, right? අපි දෙන ටයිම් ෆ්‍රේම් එක ඇතුලේ අපි දෙන ටීම් එකත් එක්ක ඔයාට පුළුවන් ද වැඩ කරන්න, ඔයාට පුළුවන් ද ලීඩර්ෂිප් එක ගන්න, right? සහ පැෂන්, ඔයාට යම් කිසි දෙයක් ගැන තියෙන, ඒ කියන්නේ ඒක ආසාව, තමන් කරන්න කැමති දේ, හදවතින්ම ඒ දේ කරන්න කැමති. එතකොට ඒ දේ අනිවාර්යෙන්ම තිබිය යුතුයි ඔයා ජොබ් එකකට ඇප්ලයි කරනකොට. ඔයාට පැෂන් කියන දේ නැත්තම් ඒ ජොබ් එක ඔයා ටික කාලයකට කරයි, සල්ලි හම්බෙන නිසා කරයි, ඔයාගේ දෙමව්පියෝ ඔයාට ඒකට ඇප්ලයි කරලා යන්න කියපු නිසා කරයි, ඒක ඔයාට හම්බෙච්ච පළවෙනි ජොබ් එක නිසා ඔයා සමහර විට කරයි. නමුත් අවුරුද්දක් දෙකක් වගේ කාලයක් ඇතුළතදී සමහර විට ඊටත් අඩු කාලයකදී ඔයාට ඒ රෝල් එකේ අකමැත්තක් ඇති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද ඒක ඔයා කැමැත්තෙන් තෝරගත්ත දෙයක් නෙමෙයි නිසා. values and competencies. values කියන්නේ අපි අපේ ඇතුලේ තියෙන්න ඕන බේසික්, ඒ කියන්නේ බොහොම මූලික මේ නිකන් ගුණාංග වගේ දේවල්. එතකොට මේ values කියන දේ කෙනෙක් පුද්ගලයාගෙන් පුද්ගලයාට වෙනස් වෙනවා සහ Taman තෝරගන්න කම්පැනි එක අනුවත් values කියන දේ වෙනස් වෙනවා. competencies කියන්නේ අපි ඔයාගෙන් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන යම්කිසි ස්කිල් සෙට් එකක්. ඒ කියන්නේ ස්කිල්ස් කිව්වට ඇත්තටම ඔයාට ජොබ් එකක් perform කරන්න අවශ්‍ය වෙන දේවල් ඔයා ගාව තියෙනවද? දැන් ඒ දේවල් ඔයා ගාව තියෙන්න පුළුවන්, නැති වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. තියෙන දේවල් තවත් අපි ඩිවෙලොප් කරන්න කම්පැනි එකක් විදියට ඔයාට උදව් කරනවා සහ නැති දේවල් කොහොමද ඔයාට කියලා දීලා ඉම්ප්‍රූව් කරන්න කියන එකත් අපි හැම වෙලෙම බලනවා. එතකොට මෙන්න මේ දේවල් තමයි අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් කැන්ඩිඩේට් කෙනෙක්ව ඉන්ටර්වියු කරනකොට, එයාගේ CV එක දිහා බලනකොට, එයාත් එක්ක කතා කරනකොට, එයා ඊමේල් එකක් එවනකොට අපි බලන්නේ ඒ වගේ දේවල්, right? so කම්පැනි එකෙන් මේ එක්ස්පෙක්ට් කරන ටික ඉස්සලාම ඔයගොල්ලෝ ගාව තියෙන්න ඕනේ. අපිට ඔයාට ඉන්ටර්වියු එකකට කතා කරන්න නම් ඔයා පොටෙන්ෂල් නැත්නම් ඔයා පොසිබල් කැන්ඩිඩේට් කෙනෙක් කියලා අපිට හිතන්න නම් මේ දේවල් හැමදේම CV එකකින් පෙන්වන්න අමාරුයි තමයි. නමුත් ඔයාගේ CV එක ෂෝට් ලිස්ට් වෙන්න නම්, ඔයාට ඉන්ටර්වියු එකකට කතා කරන්න නම් මේ දේවල් වලින් දේවල් 3ක්වත් අඩුම තරමේ ඔයාගේ CV එකෙන් අපිට පේන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට තමයි අපිට හිතෙන්නේ මෙයාව අපි ඉන්ටර්වියු එකකට අරන් බලමු. මෙයා මොන වගේ දේවල්ද කියන්නේ? කොහොමද මේ දේවල් ඔක්කොම කරේ? අනිත් දේවලුත් එයා ගාව තියෙනවද? කියන එක බලන්න තමයි අපි CV එක ෂෝට් ලිස්ට් කරලා ඔයාට ඉන්ටර්වියු එකකට කතා කරන්නේ. so දැන් අපිට ඕන දේ මෙතන අපි ඩිස්ක්‍රයිබ් කරලා තියෙනවා. දැන් බලමු ඊළඟට අපි මොනවද කතා කරන්න යන්නේ. right. so now we move on to questions you should ask yourself. So this is very much related to the first half of the conversation that we had. Also, this is related to the passion that we spoke about as well. So, before you apply for a job, oya job එකකට apply කරන්න කලින්, right? එහෙමත් නැත්නම් CV එකක් හදන්න කලින්. එහෙමත් නැත්නම් ඔයා degree එක ඉවර කළා නම්, undergraduate කෙනෙක් නම්, internship එකක් කරන්න බලනවා නම්, apply කරන්න කලින් මොනවාද තමන්ගෙන් අහන්න ඕන ප්‍රශ්න? What are the questions that you should be asking yourself before applying for a job? Right? First question. If you are new to the job market and looking for a role, you need to answer this simple question. What do you want? Right? We always want to know. We as in you, right? Sorry. You have to know what do you want to do? Like, do you want to do a job? Right? Or do you want to be a freelancer? Do you want to do your own business? What is it that you want to do? All the other things of your career, of your future, depends on this question. What do you want to do and why do you want to do it? Right? ඉස්සලාම ඔයා තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ ඔයාට මොනවද කරන්න ඕනේ. Right? සහ ඔයාට ඒ දේ ඇයි කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒ questions දෙකට ඔයාට clear උත්තරයක් තියෙනවා නම් ඉතුරු ටික බොහොම simple. Right. Then, how much are you willing to commit to build a career? So we spoke about commitment. So commitment කියන්නේ ඔයාට කොච්චර කැපකිරීමක් කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? ඔයාගේ career එක build කරන්න. දැන් කැපකිරීම කිව්වහම ලොකු ලොකු කැපකිරීම ගැන නෙමෙයි අපි මෙතන කතා කරන්නේ. Right? සමහර වෙලාවට අපේ තියෙන jobs වල ඕගලන්ට තියෙනවා relocate වෙන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයා දැන් ඉන්නේ කොළඹ නම් අපි ඔයාට කියනවා හරි අපි job එක දෙන්නම්. ඔයා කැමති job එක දෙන්නම්. ඔයා කැමති salary එකක් දෙන්නම්. හැබැයි ඔයා ගිහිල්ලා වැඩ කරන්න ඕනේ කුලියාපිටියේ. දැන් ඔයාට පුළුවන් දේ කැපකිරීම කරන්න. right? දැන් ඔයාට අනිත් හැමදේම තිබිලා මේ දේ විතරක් නැති වෙනවා නම් ඔයා මේ job එක give up කරනවාද? That means you're not committed enough, right? You have to understand that you're not going to get everything that you like when you apply for a job, right? Some things the organization might be able to offer, some things the organization might not be able to offer. So you need to compromise, right? And especially at the start of the career, you need to see whether the offer that you're getting is worth the commitment. Then ඔයාට හම්බෙන job එක ඔයාගේ කැපවීම තරම් worth නැත්තම් ඒ කියන්නේ ඒක එච්චර value addition එකක් නැත්තම් කමක් නැහැ ඒක give up කරාට. But ඔයාට හම්බෙන offer එක ඔයා මේ commitment එක දීලා ඔයා කුලියාපිටියේ ගිහිල්ලා වැඩ කරලා ඔයාට organization එකේ promising නම් ඔයා දන්නවා නම් හරි මම මේ challenge එක අරගෙන ගියොත් මගේ future එක organization එකේ හොඳ වෙයි කියලා why not commit? ඇයි ඕගලන්ට ඒ කැපකිරීම කරන්න බැරි? Right? And ඒ වගේ කැපකිරීම කරන්න හොඳම කාලය ඔයා university එකෙන් out වෙච්ච ගම. Not when you're married, not when you have kids, right? When you have more family commitments, you're unable to be flexible around a lot of things. So when you can, especially during university life as an undergraduate, or right after you like when you are a fresh graduate, that's the easiest time to take opportunities like that. Move around the country, right? Go and explore different cities, explore different jobs, but make sure that you can keep up to that commitment, right? After you say yes, okay, I'll go and work in Kuliapitiya, and then in 6 months you come back to the company and you complain that this is not there, that is not there. So then what's the point, right? That's why you need to be 100% sure that you know what you want to do and why you want to do it. So if you get the opportunity, you will have to make certain sacrifices, and that really shows your commitment towards achieving your larger goal in life, right? Then the next one, will you give excuses? So we already spoke about it. Once you get a job, or even before you get a job, right? When we call candidates for interviews, depending on certain roles, අපි හැම වෙලේම අහනවා ඔයාට සඳුදා ඉඳලා සෙනසුරාදා වෙනකන් වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? ඔයාට උදේ 6ට වැඩට එන්න පුළුවන්ද? රෑ 10ට ඔෆ් වෙන්න තිබුණොත් ඔයාට ඒක කමක් නැද්ද? කම්පැනි එක සැලරි එක ට්‍රාන්ස්පෝර්ට් කෑම ඔක්කොම දෙනවා. හැබැයි කොළඹ වැඩ කරන්න බෑ. You have to go and work out of your residential area, right? So are you okay with this, or will you be giving us excuses, right? So if you are someone who is going to come up with excuses, that means you're in the wrong track. That means you really don't know what you want to do, and you don't know why you want to do it. Because if this is what you actually wanted to do, then you will not be giving us any excuses when we are ready to make an offer, or when we are ready to call you in for an interview, right? Then the rest of the things, are you passionate to make it happen? Are you committed? We spoke about it. Okay, what lifestyle do you want to live? Now, why should you be asking this question? Especially in the environment that we are living in right now in Sri Lanka, majority of us can't really afford to have a luxurious lifestyle, right? You might have enough money to spend for your day-to-day needs, but can we save, right? Can we maybe have everything that we want? Maybe a house, a vehicle, you know, a headache free life basically, right? Can you really have it? And what are you going to do, or how are you going to work towards making your lifestyle a better one? So your lifestyle really depends on your career, right? If you choose to do a job, right, you need to know what your income is going to be. And in that income, what are your expenses? How much can you allocate for savings? So, will that offer or will that salary be enough for you to afford the lifestyle that you want to live? So, if that job is not offering that salary, why do you want to go for it? Right? So you have to make sure that the lifestyle that you want to live is something that you can afford within the job that you're going to be selected for, or within the role that you want to do, right? You can't expect to have a job at an executive level and live a very luxurious life. That doesn't happen in Sri Lanka, right? So you have to know in the job role that you're getting into, depending on the perks that you're getting, what is the best that you can have as an individual in terms of your lifestyle, right? Then, do you want a job or a great job? This is another good question to ask. So, ඔයා ඔයාගෙන් අහන්න ඕනේ ඔයාට ඕනේ නිකම්ම නිකං රස්සාවක්ද නැත්නම් ඔයාට ඕනේ හොඳ රස්සාවක්, right? So, someone might ask me, what do you mean by හොඳ රස්සාව, right? There is no good or bad job in the world for sure, but if when you are selecting a job, right, it should add value to you. Just because it's available in the market and you go and do that job, what will you get back from it, right? You have to always understand that whenever we are being brought into a job, as much as we give to the organization has to give back to us also. So whenever you're going into an organization to start your career, just look at that organization and think, can they give what I want? Or is it only me who is going to give back to the organization? Right? So that is one way that you can define whether this is a good job to fit your individuality. Right? Then another very important point is, have you done a personal SWOT? ඔයා ගැන SWOT එකක් කරලා තියෙනවද? So we all know what a SWOT is, right? Your strength, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. So මේක සාමාන්‍යයෙන් universities වල අපි ඉගෙන ගන්න වෙන දේවල් වල, even in companies we draw a lot of SWOTs, right? But මේ SWOT එක විශේෂයෙන්ම ඔයා අඳින්න ඕනේ for yourself, තමන් ගැන. ඔයාගේ strengths මොනවාද? ඔයාගේ weaknesses මොනවාද? ඔයාට තියෙන opportunities මොනවාද? සහ ඔයාට තියෙන threats මොනවාද? දැන් ඇයි අපි SWOT එකක් අඳින්නේ? ඇඳලා නිකන් පොතේ ඇඳලා හරි මේ දේවල් තියෙනවා දැන් හරි. එහෙම නෙමෙයි. SWOT එකක් අපි අඳින්නේ අපි තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ අපි ළඟ තියෙන හොඳ දේවල් මොනවාද. මේ හොඳ දේවල් ටික එකතු කරාම මට යන්න පුළුවන් level එක මොකද්ද? මට කරන්න පුළුවන් job එක මොකද්ද? කියන එක ඔයාට easily identify කරගන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද ඕනම job එකකට හැම job description එකකම ඒගොල්ලෝ දාලා තියෙනවා these skills are required, these qualifications are required and these are your responsibilities. So ඔයාගේ තියෙන strengths ඒ job description එකට match වෙනවා නම්, that means you're going to be a definite potential candidate for that particular job, right? Similarly, your weaknesses. ඔයාගේ තියෙන දුර්වලතෙන් අඳුන ගන්න ඕනේ. දුර්වලතෙන් පුද්ගලයෙක් විදිහට අඳුරගත්තේ නැත්නම් ඔයා කොහොමද improve වෙන්නේ? ඔයා දන්නවා නම් ඔයාට ඉක්මනට කේන්ති යනවා කියලා, right? එතකොට ඔයා බලන්න ඕනේ කොහොමද මේ දුර්වලතාවය මග අරගන්නේ? නැත්නම් අඩු කරන්නේ. දැන් ඉක්මනට කේන්ති යන කෙනෙක්ට කරන්න පුළුවන් jobs මේ ලෝකේ තියෙනවා හරි සීමා සහිතයි. මොකද මොනාවත් ඔයාට කියන්න බෑ, මොනාවත් ඔයාගෙන් අහන්න බෑ, කිසිම දෙයක් වැරදෙන්න බෑ, හැමෝම දන්නවා ඔයාට කේන්ති යනවා කියලා. ඉතින් ඒ වගේ පුද්ගලයෙක් එක්ක කවුරුත් වැඩ කරන්න කැමතිත් නැහැ, right? නමුත් ඔයා දන්නවා නම් ඒක ඔයාගේ දුර්වල තැනක් සහ ඔයා ඒක improve කරගන්න ඕනි කියලා, අන්න එතකොට තමයි you're a star, right? Because you know I am weak in this area, so I need to do something about it. I need to see how I can better myself, right? So that is why it's important to understand your strengths and your weaknesses. Then opportunities. There are plenty of opportunities in the world, right? You just need to look for the right one, right? So sometimes you might see opportunities that are very near to you. Like for example, maybe ඔයාගේ university එකේ they are calling for auditions, and you're someone who is really passionate about singing, but you're a bathroom singer, right? You just sing when you have a shower. But everyone, whoever is at home, they always tell you that you do a good job with singing, but maybe you have stage fear, maybe you're shy, right? But you have to look at that audition as an opportunity. Why not take it? You might be the next superstar, right? You might be the next, I don't know, Ariana Grande or whoever it is, right? So you have to identify the opportunities to understand from where you are right now, what will be the next steps, right? And you have to take the opportunities. Just identifying them is not going to do any good, right? ඔයාට තියෙන අවස්ථාවන් හඳුනා ගන්න එකෙන් විතරක් මුකුත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ අවස්ථාව ගන්න ඕනේ. ඒක ගන්න පළවෙනි කෙනා ඔයා වෙන්න ඕනේ. ඇයි බය වෙන්නේ? මොනාටද බය වෙන්නේ? Right? The society will anyway tell you 1,000 of things. Don't worry about it. If you know that you're doing the right thing, right? If you have, a good backup support like your parents, close friends who's encouraging you, why not? Go for it. Do it. සමහර විට ඒ opportunity එක ඔයාලට හම්බෙන්නේ නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. සමහර විට එකෙන් ඔයා fail වෙන්න පුළුවන්. But what's the problem? You try again, right? So that is how life works. You're not going to get everything in the first go, but the more you try, you might have a better opportunity at it. And සමහර විට ඔයාගේ weakness එකක් නම් stage fear කියන එක, ඔයා ගිහිල්ලා ඒ opportunity එක අරන් audition එක දුන්නා නම්, එහෙනම් stage fear කියන එක is no longer weakness, right? And that would be a really good example to talk about when you come in for an interview. අපි ඉන්ටර්වියර්ස්ලා විදියට හරිම කැමති ඒ වගේ කතා අහන්න. real life incidents, right? මොකද එතකොට අපි දන්නවා හරි මේ candidate කෙනෙක්ට අපි challenge එකක් දුන්නත් එයා මේක she will step up, he will step up and take the challenge. opportunity එකක් දැක්කහම ඒක මගහරින කෙනෙක් නෙමෙයි මෙයා. We also judge candidates based on these incidents. So please identify your opportunities, draw your personal SWOT, and see what you can do to make yourself better, right? Similarly, threats, right? So threats කියන දේවල් අපි බලන්න ඕනේ අපිට තියෙන ඒ කියන්නේ අනතුරු ඇඟවීම වගේ දේවල්. එහෙමත් නෙමෙයි නැත්නම් සමහර විට අපේ වටේ තියෙන threats කොහොමද මේ දේවල් අපි threat එකකින් opportunity එකකට convert කරගන්නේ කියන එක තමයි අපි බලන්න ඕනේ. හරි? So my advice to all the students who are connected here today, right, is that you have to immediately start drawing your SWOT. සමහරට ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේ exercise එක කරලත් ඇති, right? මොකද SWOT එකක් ඔයා හදන්නම ඕනේ ඔයාගේ CV එක හදන්න නම්. මොකද ගොඩක් students ලා strengths කියන දේවල් දානවා CV එකට. එතකොට ඒ strengths දිහා බලනවා අපි CV එකක් shortlist කරනකොට. මෙයාට මොනවාද තියෙන strengths? මෙයා මේ job එකට apply කරනවා නම් මෙයාට පුළුවන්ද මෙයාගේ මේ තියෙන strengths use කරලා මේ job එක කරන්න, right? Similarly, even though we don't put weaknesses, opportunities and threats into a CV, these will be very common questions that we will be asking you at the time of an interview, right? Then moving on, a few other questions. What are my opportunities for employment in the industry? So then ඉස්සෙල්ලා මං කිව්වා වගේ ඔයා මොනවාද කරන්න ඕනේ, ඇයි ඒක කරන්න ඕනේ කියන දේ identify කරගත්තයින් පස්සේ ඔයා බලනවානේ දැන් මොන industry එකේද මම job එක කරන්න යන්නේ කියලා. Let's say for example apparel industry එකේ. ඒක තමයි මට ගන්න ලේසිම example එක මොකද I am from that industry. So apparel industry එක මේ වෙනකොට ශ්‍රී ලංකාවල තියෙන්නේ කොයි වගේ තැනකද? නැත්නම් ලෝකේ තියෙන්නේ කොයි වගේ තැනකද? ඔයා ලංකාවේ apparel industry එකේ job එකක් පටන් ගත්තොත් ඔයා අවුරුදු දෙකක් job එක කරලා රට යන්න plan කරනවා නම් මට රට ගියොත් මොන රටට ගියත් මට opportunity එකක් තියෙනවද? Right? So it's extremely important to identify which industry you're going to select. and මේ ඔයා select කරන මේ industry එක ඔයාගේ මුළු ජීවිත කාලෙටම impact වෙනවා. IT, apparel, it can be food, it can be anything, right? Because if this is going to be your first job, right, you have to understand that that basic or that foundation is really, really important, right? So ඒක නිසා දැන් අපේ ලෝකේ තියෙන තැන බැලුවාම ලංකාව තියෙන තැන බැලුවාම ලංකාව is a very like diminishing country. කිසිම improvement එකක් පේන්නේ නැහැ අපිට, right? So ඒක නිසා ඔයා ලංකාවේ ඇතුලේ job එකක් හොයා ගන්නකොට ඒ industry එක ලංකාවේ thrive වෙන industry එකක් නෙමෙයි නං. ලංකාවේ successful industry එකක් නෙමෙයි නං. මේ තියෙන ප්‍රශ්න නිසා මිනිස්සුන්ව එළියට දාන industry එකක් නං. job එකේ uncertainty එක වැඩි නම් ඇයි ඔයා ඒ වගේ industry එකකට යන්නේ? Why do you want to be employed in an industry like that? Right? So don't make wrong choices at the very beginning of your career. You need to be very mindful about the industry that you're going to come into, not only in Sri Lanka. Even if you're applying for a job abroad in any country, you need to make sure that the industry is going to survive for at least the next 10 years, right? If it is not going to survive, why would you want to be a part of it, right? So look at the next question. What are my opportunities for growth? So if you're going into a diminishing industry or an industry that is going to disappear in a few more years, how will you find opportunities to grow? No one is going to give you an opportunity to grow. You will be stagnant. ඔයා ඒ industry එකකට ගියොත් හැමදාම ඔයා ඒ position එකේම පටන් ගත්ත තැනේම අවුරුදු 10ක් 15ක් 20ක් එහෙමම ඉඳි. මොකද කිසිම growth එකක් නැහැ ඒ industry එකේ. ඔයාට support කරන්න ඒගොල්ලන්ට හැකියාවක් නැහැ, right? So ඒක නිසා ඔයා industry එක select කරගෙන organization එක select කරනකොට ඔයා දැනගන්න ඕනේ මේ organization එකේ, right? කොච්චර දෙනෙක් staff කෙනෙක් විදියට ඇවිල්ලා දැන් manager කෙනෙක් වෙලා ඉන්නවද? එයාට staff විදියට join වෙලා manager කෙනෙක් වෙන්න කොච්චර කාලයක් ගියාද? right? සහ ඒ organization එක ඇතුලේ promotions හැම වෙලේම දෙනවද? individuals ලට professionally and knowledge wise ඒගොල්ලන්ට growth opportunities තියනවද? Growth opportunities are not only promotions. You have to understand that also. Growth opportunities, you can look at it from a learning aspect as well, right? So සමහර වෙලාවට ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඉගෙනගෙන ඇති job enhancement කියලා දෙයක්. So a job enhancement is not a promotion. ඔයා කරන role එකම තමයි කරන්නේ, but ඔයාට additional responsibilities දෙනවා. So that is like they are trying to develop you as an individual, right? And they want to see whether you can take more responsibility. So එතකොට ඔයා කරන දෙයට අමතරව තව දෙයක් ඔයාට දෙනවා කියන්නේ it's an opportunity for growth, right? It's an opportunity to show how well you can take challenges, right? So ඒ වගේ දේවල් ගැන you have to be very careful and you have to ask these questions from yourself before applying, right? So how well is the industry doing? We spoke about it. Will I be happy working in this industry? We spoke about it. Does this industry job and pay support the lifestyle that I want? So these few of these questions we already covered. But again, going on to number 1, you need to know what you want to do and why you want to do it. Those are the first 2 questions you need to ask and everything else follows. මොකද්ද ඔයාට කරන්න ඕනේ සහ ඇයි ඔයා ඒ දේ කරන්න කැමති කියන එක ඔයා අනිවාර්යෙන්ම ඔයාගෙන් අහන්න ඕනේ. ඒකට හොඳ උත්තරයක් හොයාගන්න ඕනේ. ඔයා ඉගෙන ගත්ත දේවල්, ඔයාගේ extra curricular activities, එතකොට seniors ලගේ opinions, ඔයාගේ දෙමව්පියන්ගේ opinions, industry එක ඇතුලේ ඉන්න තව කට්ටිය, විවිධ industries වල ඉන්න කට්ටියගේ යන්න, කතා කරන්න, Google කරන්න, අහන්න. You all have access to everything in the world, right? It's just a fingertip away. So ඒක නිසා තියෙන resources වලින් උපරිම ප්‍රයෝජනය අරගෙන ask yourself the right questions, right? Right. Then we move on to the topic of things that you need to do before applying for a job. right? So we spoke about the questions you need to ask from yourself. Now, after you ask the questions and after you have answered all those questions, now it's time for you to apply for the job that you have thought about, right? So first, you have to know yourself. That is why we did a SWOT, right? ඔයා ඔයා ගැන දන්නේ නැත්නම් අපිත් ඔයා ගැන දැනගන්න විදියක් නැහැ, right? So ඔයා ඉස්සෙල්ලා දැනගන්න ඕනේ ඔයාගේ මොනවාද ඔයාට most confident areas, your strengths, weaknesses, right? And then what have you done to improve yourself, right? And you have to be very thorough with yourself so that if I ask you a question at the time of the interview, right, you need to know the answer. Then develop key competencies. We've spoken about it. And then start early. If you haven't, you should start now. So I think as undergraduates, you all have opportunities to do internships, right? You all have opportunities to take up projects within different organizations, even at MAS, right? And also in the university, you all have different societies, different clubs, right? And you can be a part of this, right? Even if you're not getting an opportunity to do sports anymore, maybe because physical interaction is very limited, but you can still be a part of so many different things, even virtually, right? Because that is the way the world works right now. So, ඔයා තාමත් work experience එකක් අරගෙන නැති කෙනෙක් නම්, project එකකට involve වෙලා නැති කෙනෙක් නම්, right? එහෙනම් ඒක දැන් කරන්න. ඕන තරම් projects තියෙනවා, ඕන තරම් learning opportunities තියෙනවා, ඕන තරම් internship programs තියෙනවා. ඕනම company එකක ගිහිල්ලා බලන්න career ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ careers page එක, every time there are opportunities that are available and open. You just need to be, proactive, and you need to go out there, look for it, speak to people, Google it, right? Find it and do it. Don't wait, right? Then understand your competition, be better than the competition. So when you say competition here, everyone basically who applies for a particular job role is going to be a competition to you. So you should look at the world around. Then COVID kale, we found that a lot of students have done so many online courses, right? Which I think is a really good thing. They have not wasted time. They have added some value to their knowledge, right? And it's just freely available. And that's the other good thing. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් Google course එකක් කරන්න නම් ඔය certified training institute selling program එකක් කරන්න නම් you have to pay. But because of COVID, right, so many universities, even Oxford, even Cambridge, they make sure that some of the courses come in free, right? So මම දැක්කා අපි interviews කරනකොට ගොඩාක් students ලා ඒ වගේ courses කරලා තිබුණා. So කරන්න මේ දේවල් ඉගෙන ගන්න. හැම වෙලේම තමන් ඉගෙන ගන්න ඩිග්‍රී එකට පමණක් සීමා වෙන්න එපා. Additional qualifications කරන්න. මොකද ඒ හැම දෙයක්ම ඔයාගේ job role එක කරන්න නැත්නම් ඔයාට ඉස්සරහට යන්න. ඔයා තමන්ගෙම කියලා රැකියාවක් කරත්, තමන්ගෙම කියලා business එකක් පටන් ගත්තත්, ගෙදර තියෙන family business එකට උදව් කරත්, මේ හැම දෙයකම ඒක ගොඩක් වැදගත්, right? So basically, even things like, your knowledge in Excel, right? At the time, we regret the fact that no one, even at school or even at university, we were never properly taught how to, really work on Excel. But other, අපේ jobs බැලුවොත්, අපි කරන හැම වැඩක්ම, at least 60% of it, we have to do it on an Excel sheet. So do you know how to work on Excel sheet? Do you know VLOOKUP? Do you know how to do a pivot? Right? So go and learn. Right? In every role, you need this additional knowledge so that it will be a backup support. And then you can be better than your competition because you have done something extra to make yourself better. Then we spoke about knowing your strengths and weaknesses, what you're passionate about, and getting feedback. Extremely important, right? Once again, so ඔයා මොනා හරි project එකකට සම්බන්ධ වෙනවා නම්, if you are in an internship or if you're currently doing an internship or if you have faced an interview, right? Or maybe you're a part of a team, an organizing committee, right? So go and speak to your peers, your supervisors, even your teammates. ඒගොල්ලන්ගෙන් නිකන් අහන්න. මම අද මෙහෙම දෙයක් කරා. What do you think about it? Right? They will tell you the good, they will tell you the bad. Listen to it. Take it in, right? And if you feel that with the feedback that you got, that you have areas to improve, go ahead and do it. Why not? Right? Getting feedback and asking for it is a really, really positive thing. So don't shy away from it. And කවුරු හරි ඔයාලට කතා කරලා voluntarily feedback එකක් දෙනවා නම් කාට හරි ඔයාගේ ටීම් එකේ එක්කෙනෙක් නැත්නම් ඔයාගේ ටීම් ලීඩර් ඔයාට කතා කරලා කියනවා ඔයා අද මෙන්න මේ දේ මෙහෙම දෙයක් වුණා ඔයා මේක මෙහෙම නැතුව මේ විදිහට හැන්ඩල් කරා නම් ඊට වඩා හොඳ වෙන්න තිබුණා right එහෙමත් නැත්නම් ඔයා මේ දේ කරා ඔයා ඒ දේ කරපු නිසා ටීම් එක අද මේ කොම්පිටිෂන් එක දින්නා so that is feedback right similarly feedback can be positive and negative but negative feedback is where you need to improve so don't take it as a negative comment don't get disheartened by it right don't get angry with another person just because එයා ඇවිල්ලා ඔයාට negative feedback එකක් දුන්නා කියලා එහෙම වෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ ඒකෙන් ඉගෙන ගන්න and feedback ගිහිල්ලා ඉල්ලන්න interview එකකින් පස්සේ වුණත් ඔයාට පුළුවන් interviewer ගෙන් question කරන්න right මම මේ විදියට කරපු දේ මම ඒ උත්තර දීපු විදිය හරිද right සමහර විට interviewer එකේ හරි වැරද්ද කියන්නේ නැති වෙයි but එයා අනිවාර්යෙන් ඔයාට comment එකක් කියයි you know ඔයාට මේක තමයිට මීට වඩා හොඳට කියන්න තිබුණා නැත්තම් මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් මම ඔයාගෙන් අහනකොට මම බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ මෙන්න මේ වගේ උත්තරයක් right always get feedback so that you understand what the perception of the other person is මොකද අපි හැම වෙලෙම හිතන් ඉන්නේ අපි කරන දේ තමයි හරි හරි but එහෙම නැහැ අපිත් වැරදි කරනවා මොකද අපිත් මිනිස්සුනේ ඉතින් අපි කරන වැරද්ද අපිට ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අපිට පේන්නේ නැත්තම් අපිට පෙනුනත් අපි ඒක ඉග්නෝර් කරන එක තමයි වැඩිපුරම කරන්නේ so ඒක අපි කරන හොඳ අපි දන්නවා අපි මේ දේ හොඳට කරා කියලා right එතකොට කවුරු හරි අපිට ඒකට appreciate කරනවා නම් අප්පුඩියක් ගහනවා නම් අපිට award එකක් හම්බ වෙනවා නම් we are really happy right so similarly you need to know the bad also only then you can improve as an individual so that's about the feedback then research job roles that match your capability so we have spoken about it but ඔයා දැනගන්න ඕනේ ඔයා jobs හොයනකොට මම අර ඉස්සෙල්ලා කිව්වා වගේ market එකේ තිබුණ පළියට හැම job එකකටම apply කරන්න එපා ඒ jobs වල clearly දීලා තියෙනවා මොනවාද job එකේ තියෙන responsibilities සහ ඔයාට job එක කරන්න නම් මොනවාද තියෙන්න ඕන qualifications සහ මොනවාද තියෙන්න ඕන skills so මේ දේවල් match වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් ඇයි apply කරන්නේ why are you wasting your time right you're wasting your time and you're wasting other people's time as well right so always try to apply for jobs which really matches your capabilities then research the company you would like to work we spoke about it learn about the organization's culture and practices this is another important point so culture කියන දේ මම ඉස්සෙල්ලා කිව්වා වගේ organization එකෙන් organization එකට වෙනස් වෙනවා right සමහර organizations ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැකලා ඇති they have won awards saying best place to work right so ඒ වගේම තව organizations in the society they think of it as a people's organization so ඕනම කෙනෙක් දන්නවා මේ organization එකට ගියොත් ඒ කියන්නේ ඒගොල්ලෝ මාව බලා ගන්නවා ඒකයි මේකට people's organization එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ එතකොට සමහර organizations තියෙනවා ඔයා ඒක ගැන මුකුත්ම දන්නේ නැති වුණත් මුළු හැමෝම කියන්නේ this is my dream company to work ඇයි ඒ society එකේ තියෙන picture එක about that company is that ඒ කියන්නේ මේ organization එකට එකපාරක් හරි යන්නම ඕනේ මේකේ වැඩ කරන්නම ඕනේ ඇයි ඒ ඒකේ culture එක that is what is promoted or projected to the outside world right so google එකේ වැඩ කරන්න chance එකක් හම්බුනොත් ඔයා කැමති නැද්ද ඔයා කැමති ඇයි කැමති because of the culture right they have you know their working hours are so flexible right the employees are provided with everything they can even bring their pets to work right so ඒ වගේ culture එකක ඇයි අපි වැඩ කරන්න කැමති නැත්තේ right so ඔයා බලන්න ඕනේ ඔයා apply කරන organization එකේ මොකද්ද culture එක ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ practices මොනවාද? right? ඒ කියන්නේ practices කිව්වහම මේගොල්ලෝ අවුරුදු 18ට වඩා අඩු කට්ටිය වර්ගෙන employ කරනවාද? EPF ETF ගෙවන්නේ නැද්ද? right? ඒ වගේ දේවල් ටක් ගාලා හොයාගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ අදාළ කම්පැනි එකේ ඕන කෙනෙක් එක්ක කතා කරලා බලන්න. And the best way to connect on a professional platform would be on LinkedIn, right? So I hope you have your own profiles on LinkedIn. නැත්නම් LinkedIn profile එකක් හදාගන්න. හදාගෙන ඒකේ ඉන්න professionalsලත් එක්ක connect වෙන්න, right? LinkedIn is not a platform like Instagram or Facebook. It's not for your social or day-to-day life postings. It is mostly about professionally, how do you handle like people, and you will get to meet people from different industries, different experiences, right? Connect with them, talk to them, right? එතකොට තමයි ඔයාට තේරුම් ගන්න පුළුවන් මොනවාද මේ world එකේ available දේවල්, මොනවාද මේ culture කියන්නේ, මොනවාද organization එකක practice එකක් කියන්නේ, right? So ඔයාට නැත්තම් LinkedIn profile එකක්, please make a LinkedIn profile, project yourself to the world, right? And make sure that ඔයාගේ profile එක හදන විදිය is attractive. ඒ කියන්නේ මම ගිහිල්ලා ඔයාගේ profile එක බැලුවොත් මට හිතනවාද ඔයාට opportunity එකක් දෙන්න, right? ඔයාගේ profile එක හදලා තියෙන්නේ නිකන් කිසිම වැඩක් නැති, කිසිම aim එකක් goal එකක් නැති individual කෙනෙක් විදියට නම් we are just going to ignore. We are not even going to accept your request, right? So ඒ වගේ දේවල් ගැන you have to be mindful. Then understand the company's potential to growth. We spoke about it. What are the benefits, disadvantages of working? So ඒකත් අපි කතා කරා. When you are going to select an organization, you need to know what are the goods, what are the bads, right? So හැම company එකේම දෙපැත්තම තියෙනවා. මං ඉස්සෙල්ලා කිව්වා වගේ කිසිම company එකක් 100% perfectly ඔයා කැමති හැමදේම දෙන්නේ නැහැ, right? ඕනම job role එකක් අපි ගන්නකොට ඒකේ හොඳ දේවලුත් තියෙනවා, ඒකේ නරක දේවලුත් තියෙනවා. but ඔයා select කරන්න ඕනේ ඔයාට හොඳ දේවල් වැඩි කියලා හිතෙන role එක. නරක දේවල් වැඩි නම් ඒක select කරලා වැඩක් නැහැනේ. සමහර විට පඩිය වැඩි වෙන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් ඉතුරු හැම දෙයක්ම වැඩක් නැහැ. ඉතින් ඇයි එහෙම එකක් select කරන්නේ? Just for the money? Don't do that, right? Money is only one part of it, right? Money is not the most important thing. There are much more important things. Your space to grow, right? How much of trainings will you be given, right? What is your networking like, right? ඒ වගේ දේවලුත් consider කරන්න ඕනේ. ඔයාට ලංකාවේ විතරමද වැඩ කරන්න තියෙන්නේ. මේ company එකට ගියොත් ඔයාට පිට රටකට ගිහිල්ලා වැඩ කරන්න opportunity එකක් හම්බ වෙනවද? Right? So a හැමදේම important, sometimes even more than the salary, right? So just because the salary is high and all the other things that you get are not worth it, please think about it twice, right? Salary is only one part of it. It's not the whole thing. You need to understand that very clearly. Then the reputation. So reputation කියන්නේ අනිත් මිනිස්සු මේ company එක ගැන හිතන්නේ මොනවාද? නැත්නම් ඔයා මේ company එක ගැන අහලා තියෙන්නේ මොනවාද? right? society එකට ගියාම ඕන කෙනෙක්ගෙන් අහලා බලන්න සාමාන්‍යයෙන් top 10 companies ගැන ගොඩක් දෙනෙක් දන්නවා. ලංකාවේ හෝ ලෝකේ හෝ ඕනම තැනක, right? so මේ වගේ company එකක වැඩ කරන එකෙන් ඔයාගේ CV එකට, ඔයාගේ LinkedIn profile එකට ඔයාට කෙනෙක් විදියට වැඩිපුර දෙයක් හම්බ වෙනවද? right? Because the company's reputation reflects on you as well. So LinkedIn එකට ගිහිල්ලා දැම්මොත් that you're a content writer at maybe Google. Don't you think that's a good thing? Like I would be really impressed. එහෙම කෙනෙක්ව LinkedIn එකේ හම්බ වෙන්න. And I would be like, okay, මේ කෙනා is like really lucky to be a part of the Google, organization, right? So the company's reputation really matters. ඔයා යන company එක බංකොලොත් වෙච්ච කම්පැනි එකක් නම්, නැත්තම් හොර වැඩ කරලා අහුවෙච්ච කම්පැනි එකක් නම්, right? ඒගොල්ලන් දැන් කොච්චර හොඳ තැනක හිටියත් වැඩක් නැහැ. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ reputation එක එච්චර හොඳ නැති නිසා, right? So you need to pick and choose carefully. So these are a couple of things that you need to do or you need to prepare yourself for before applying for a job. We have a question on the chat box. All right. I am sorry, I didn't quite catch that, madam. How can we find internships, right? So we'll get to this question by the end of the session, because there are different platforms that MAS uses and other companies also use when it comes in terms to finding career opportunities. We'll talk about it at the end of the session, right? Okay. So moving on from here. Right. Now we are coming to the interesting part, right? So the aim today was to teach you how to connect or how you need to be prepared for an online interview. So now we are going to come to that climax sort of area of the presentation. And please stop me and ask any questions if you have any. Right. So I listed down certain methods of interviews. මේවා ඔයගොල්ලන් already දන්නවා. So a formal panel interview, which was the most common way of doing interviews prior to COVID, right? Now we have switched mostly to online interviews. Then there are coffee table discussions, lunch or dinner chats, projects and presentations, and assessment centers. So coffee table discussion එකක් හෝ maybe a lunch or dinner. Then coffee table discussion එකක් ගැන කතා කරොත් මේ වගේ discussions ගොඩක් වෙලාවට we call the higher levels, like when we want to interview a person for a deputy general manager opening, maybe a direct opening, right? We don't just call them for an online interview. We don't just call them to come and meet you at office, right? It's a much more relaxed setup, right? And like a much more open air conversation, because they are meeting, the higher levels are meeting there, right? So there is no need to be too formal. They are coming with so much of industry experience that even looking at the person and having the first 5 minute chat, you might be able to grab whether this person is the right fit for the job, right? Then lunch or dinner chats. So මේක ඇත්තටම experiment එකක්. Lunch or dinner chat එකකට ඔයාට කතා කරනවා නම් you have to be really prepared. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයා කතා කරන දේවල් ගැන නෙමෙයි. First is your dress code, right? Lunch එකකට යනකොට මොකද්ද ඔයා යන තැන අනුව, right? සහ හම්බෙන කෙනා අනුව මොකද්ද ඔයා ඇඳගෙන යන්න ඕනේ. Even for dinner the same, right? Are you going to a hotel? Are you going to meet the person at a maybe a restaurant, or are you going for a buffet, right? ඒ හැමදේම you have to be really careful about. එතකොට අනිත් දේ තමයි mostly මේ වගේ chats අපි ගන්නෙ අපිට ටෙස්ට් කරන්න ඕන වුණාම යාගේ culinary experience එකත්. ඒ කියන්නේ යා කොහමද hand පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ, fork එක පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ, යා හරි විදියට knife එක අල්ලනවාද. ඔය වගේ දේවල් තමයි ගොඩාක් වෙලාවට lunch or dinner chats වලින් අපි assess කරන්නේ, right? So එහෙම chat එකකට ඔයාට කවදම හරි invitation එකක් හම්බ වුණොත්, watch videos over and over and over again about how to use your fork, your spoon, your knife, right? Serviette එක කොහෙන්ද තියන්නේ, කොහොමද spoon එකයි fork එකයි කාලේ ඉවර නම් තියන්නේ table එක මේ plate එක උඩින්. තාම කාලේ ඉවර නැත්තම් second serving එකට යනවනම් කොයි විදියටද ඒක තියලා යන්නේ, right? So please be very thorough with areas like that if you are called in for a lunch or dinner chat. මොකද හැමෝම ඒ දේ අනිවාර්යෙන්ම judge කරනවාමයි, right? Then projects and presentations. So make a mostly from the apparel industry context. අපි designers ලට තමයි මේ වගේ designers, pattern technologists ඒ වගේ අයට තමයි මේ වගේ දේවල් අපි ලෑස්ති කරන්නේ, because ඒගොල්ලන්ට අපි assessment එකක් දෙනවා. හරි. දැන් ඔයා මේ assessment එක ඉවර කළා, you need to do a presentation about it, right? So that is part of the interview. And then finally assessment centers. සමහරට ඔයගලන් assessment centers වලට participate කළත් ඇති. Assessment center එකක කරන්නේ we bring a group of candidates together and we put you into different teams and we give you certain activities, right? මං ඉස්සෙල්ලා කිව්වා වගේ assessment center එකක the important thing is not to achieve the final goal. The important thing is not to complete the task. There are more important things that we assess: leadership qualities, teamwork, right? Communication and things like that. So assessment එක fail වෙන්න පුළුවන්, but ඔයා අර කියන ඔක්කොම aspects වලින් you have done really well. So even if you have not completed the task, still you have an opportunity to be a part of the organization, right? So මේව තමයි interview methods මේ කීපයක් විතරයි but මීට වඩා interview methods උත් ලෝකේ තියෙනවා, right? So moving on. Okay, now we are going to talk about you. So now you are going to be the candidate for interviews. I think your career fair is coming up very soon. So these are a couple of things that any organization, it can be from any industry, from anywhere in the world, right? It can be even the smallest organization in Sri Lanka or in the world, but they are going to look at these things for sure, right? So for us, this is how we first look at a candidate and we judge whether the candidate is good or not so good, right? First is attire. Very, very, very important, right? So I think after online interviews came into play, a lot of students, this is something that I have seen a lot. දැන් online interviews පටන් ගත්තයින් පස්සේ මම commonly දැකලා තියෙන වැරැද්දක් තමයි ගොඩාක් දෙනෙක් හරිම සුළුවට තමයි online interview එකක් ගැන හිතන්නේ. Right? මේක මේ විනාඩි 20ක call එකක්නේ. එහෙම. Right? Not prepared at all. And their attire is the worst part of it. Right? ගොඩ දෙනෙක් t-shirts ඇඳන් එනවා. කොණ්ඩෙවත් පීරලා නැහැ. Right? අඩුම තරමේ තමන්ගේ කාමරේ ඉඳලා ඉන්ටර්විව් එක කරනවා නම් පිටිපස්සේ තියෙන ඇඳවත් හදලා නැහැ. Do you know how very disappointing that is for a person, for an interviewer, right? ඒක තමයි ඉන්ටර්විව් එකක් ස්ටාර්ට් කරන්න පුළුවන් worstම විදිය. So එහෙම කෙනෙක්ව දැක්කහම, right? එයාගේ resume එකේ එයා ශ්‍රී ලංකා color holder කෙනෙක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. But වැඩක් නැහැ. No discipline, right? And no respect. තමන් apply කරපු job එකට, right? අපි ඔයාලට කතා කරනවා interview එකකට එන්න. And you're getting an opportunity to be interviewed, right? Interview එකකට කතා කරනවා කියන්නේත් ලොකු achievement එකක්. Because you can learn from that experience. But ඔයා interview එකට එන්නේ අවුල් වෙච්ච කොණ්ඩයක් එක්ක, හරිද? t-shirt එකක් ඇඳගෙන, ගෙදරට ඉන්න මොකක් හරි ඇඳුමක් ඇඳගෙන, පිටිපස්සේ background එක පොඩ්ඩක්වත් clean කරලා නැහැ, right? සද්ද හොඳටම එක්ක පාරේ වාහනයක් යනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්, නැත්නම් බල්ල පුරනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්, right? ගෙදර ඉන්න කට්ටියගේ gathering එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. අනිත් එක සමහර අය කාමරවල වල දොරවල් වහලා නැහැ. ගෙදර ඉන්න අය එහෙට යනවා මෙහෙට යනවා, right? හරිම disrespectful. So please don't be like that, right? If you are connecting to an interview, you have to respect the other party as well. මොකද අපිත් අපේ වෙලාව අරගෙන ඔයාට opportunity එකක් දෙන්න යනවා to come and face an interview, right? And we are going to judge you. So interview එකේ connect වෙච්ච පළවෙනි මිනිත්තුවෙන්ම you're out, right? You're not going to get an opportunity, right? ඕනම organization එකක මේක බොහොම basic දෙයක්. You have to be dressed properly. කොණ්ඩේ හරියට පීරන්න ඕනේ, හරි ඇඳුමක් ඇඳගෙන ඉන්න ඕනේ, right? හදිස්සියෙන් හරි අපි කිව්වොත් හරි දැන් ඔයා ගිහිල්ලා ඒ සර්ටිෆිකට් එක අරගෙන එන්න. දැන් ඔයා නැගිටිනකොට ඔයා ඇඳගෙන ඉන්නේ ෂෝට් එකක් නම්, right? නැත්නම් ඔයා හරියට if you are not dressed, right? මොකක්ද ඉන්ටර්විව්වට පේන්නේ? It's so embarrassing sometimes, right? අපි request කරනවා candidate video එක off කරන්න කියලා because we don't want to look at it anymore, right? So ඒක නිසා please make sure that you are dressed appropriately, right? You know there are ඕකෙම opposite candidates ලත් ඉන්නවා. tie එකක් ඇඳලා, right? ලස්සන්ට කොණ්ඩේ පීරලා, right? Even girls, they come dressed really well. You know, putting a really maybe like a overcoat, maybe like a formal suit, right? It's so nice to see people like that because then we know, මෙයා ඇත්තටම interview එකට prepare වෙලා, right? ඇත්තටම එයා ඇඳුමක් select කරලා නැකිටලා, you know, එයාගේ background එක clear කරලා, right? We notice all of these things. So please don't take interviews for granted, especially online interviews. මොකද physically එනවා නම් ඔයා කොහොමත් හරියට ඇඳගෙන එන්න ඕනේනේ. There is no two words about it, right? හැබැයි online interview එකකදී ඔයා දන්නව නෑ. එච්චර අඳින්න දෙයක් නෑ. But that's a wrong impression to have, right? As much as you prepare for a physical interview, you need to be equally well dressed even for an online interview, right? then you have to be on time. මේක තමයි අනිත් ප්‍රශ්නේ. දැන් එකක් රටේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා කරන්ට් එක නැහැ. right? So ඒකට we can always excuse. හැබැයි කරන්ට් එක නැත්තම් ඒක කෝල් කරලා අපිට ඉන්ෆෝම් කරන්න ඕනේ. සමහර කැන්ඩිඩේට්ස්ලා අපි කෝල් කරලා ඒගොල්ලන්ගෙන් අහනකම් නිකන්වත් කෝල් එකක් දීලා කියන්නේ කරන්ට් එක නැති නිසා කනෙක්ට් වෙන්න බෑ කියලා. කනෙක්ෂන් ඉෂුව එකක් නිසා කනෙක්ට් වෙන්න බෑ කියලා. නිකන්වත් අපි කතා කරලා අහනකම් ඇයි තාම ඇවිල්ලා නැත්තේ ඇයි තාම කනෙක්ට් වෙලා නැත්තේ කියලා they just don't say anything. Again, you're being disrespectful, right? If we took the time to call you and tell you that you're having an interview at this time, and if we have sent you an email mentioning that you're having an interview at this time, right? And we have shared the link for you to connect, right? Basic manners is to accept the calendar note, number one, so that interview note එක වට එපු කෙනා දන්නවා හරි. calendar note එක accept කරලා ඒ කියන්නේ ආ interview එකට අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම connect වෙනවා. accept කරලා අපි interview එකට connect වුණාම candidate නැහැ. ඇයි නැත්තේ? එක්ක current එක ගිහිල්ලා කියනවා නැත්නම් connectivity issue එකක් කියනවා, right? so එයා අපිට ඒක call එකක් දීලා කියන්න ඕනේ. මෙහෙම මට පොඩ්ඩක් පරක් වෙනවා. මට තව විනාඩි 5ක් දෙන්න. නැත්නම් කරන්ට් එක එන්නේ මේ වෙලාවට. so මේ වෙලාවෙන් පස්සේ රීෂෙඩියුල් කරලා දෙන්න පුළුවන්ද? We are open to things like that. You know, we really like when people call us and tell this to us. එතකොට වාට ඉන්ටර්වියු එකට allocate කරපු ඒ විනාඩි 20 we can do something else. නැත්නම් විනාඩි 20ම we are just going to be online waiting for you to connect. Right? So that is not a good impression to create. Then check your network before the call. Network issues ඕන තරම් එනවා, right? මොකද අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට connect වෙන්නේ ගෙදර Wi-Fi එකෙන්, mobile hotspot එකෙන්, නැත්නම් dongle එකකින්, right? So ලංකාවේ network is not so great. We all know that. And especially current ගිය වෙලාවකට Wi-Fi එක off වෙලා අපි mobile hotspot එකෙන් connect වුණත් the connections are not very strong. And hotspot එකෙන් connect වෙලා call එකක් එනකොට automatically මේක disconnect වෙනවා, right? So ඔය ඔක්කොම experiences අපිටත් තියෙනවා, right? ඒක නිසා ඔයා බලන්න ඕනි විනාඩි 10කට කලින් ඉන්ටර්වියු එකට කනෙක්ට් වෙන්න. ලින්ක් එක වැඩ කරනවාද? ලින්ක් එක හම්බ වෙලාද? Teams or Zoom, do you have the app, right? Can you connect? Is it working? Are there any problems? Please check these things. Don't wait for a minute before the interview to connect and then බලනකොට ඔන්න ලින්ක් එක හම්බ වෙලා නැහැ. ලින්ක් එක වැඩ කරන්නේ නැහැ, right? Teams app එකකින් ඔයාව block කරනවා. Zoom එකකින් block කරනවා. So ඇයි මේ දේවල් කලින් බැලුවේ නැත්තේ? Right? ඉතින් ඒක නිසා please when you get an online interview invitation, click on the link. Go and check whether the link is working. Go and check whether you can view the screen. Go and check whether you can share your presentation. Right? Don't wait for the last minute. Don't wait for the time of the interview for you to go and click on the link and check. By the time you click on the link and it starts working, ඔයාට allocate කරලා තියෙන මිනිත්තු 20න් මිනිත්තු 10ක් ගිහිල්ලා. එතකොට interview එක productiveද? ඔයා productiveද? No, because you will get panicked. You will get nervous. Interviewer ගේ mood එක will be ruined, right? So ඒක නිසා please be mindful of the first three things that is mentioned here, right? Then follow the instructions. So සාමාන්‍යයෙන් practice එකක් විදියට අපි candidate කෙනෙක්ට interview එකකට කතා කරනකොට we send them a couple of emails. Sometimes they are online assessments, right? Sometimes it can be like forms to fill and maybe to share your certificates with us. And අපි හැම වෙලේම very clearly mail එකේ mention කරනවා මේ දවසට කලින් මේ දේවල් අපිට එවන්න, right? So your responsibility is to go through those emails thoroughly, clearly and follow the instructions. What is so difficult about that? Sometimes we don't understand. මොකද candidate කෙනෙක්ට සමහර වෙලාවට call කරලා තමයි එයාට රස්සාව ඕනේ. But අපි තමයි පිටි පස්සෙන් යන්නේ. Right? So why do you want to become a candidate like that? Right? ඒකෙන්ම පේනවා ඔයා කොච්චර irresponsible ද කියලා. ඔයා interview එකකදී star කෙනෙක් වුණාට වැඩක් නැහැ. No point in acing your interview. Right? මේ වගේ basic දෙයක් if you can't get it together, you're not a good candidate. It's simple as that. So මම ඔයාට කියලා තියෙනවා නම් මේ forms ටික interview එක දවසට කලින් එවන්න කියලා, right? ඔයා ඒ ටික එවලා නැත්නම් මම call කරලා ඔයාගෙන් ඒ ටික ඉල්ලන්න ඕන නම් what does that mean? That means that you can't follow instructions, you're not very thorough with your emails, right? And you can't meet deadlines. Simple as that, right? So please don't show personality traits like that because they are real weaknesses. You need to be on the ball. You need to make sure that you have gone through your emails, you have read what we have sent, right? You have shared all the documents, and මොනා හරි ඉල්ලලා තියෙන document එකක් නැත්තම් email එකක mention කරන්න, because of this reason I am unable to share the document right now. You know, because a lot of university students, they are boarded in hostels, right? So ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ certificates ගොඩක් වෙලාවට තියෙන්නේ ගෙදර. ඉතින් ගෙදර ඉන්න කට්ටියට සමහරට ස්කෑන් කරලා එවන්න බැරුව ඇති. No problem, right? අපිට එහෙම කිසි ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. but අපිට කියන්න අපිට මේ දවස් වෙනකන් එවන්න බෑ, but ඊට පස්සේ මේ දවසට ගෙදර ගියාම අනිවාර්යෙන් එවන්න. Right? Then you need to have a good introduction about yourself, eye contact and hand gestures, use of voice and pronunciation. Then you need to support your interview with the documents, certificates, portfolios, letters, etc. And you need to stick to the point, right? So basically, we are going to talk in detail as well. So let's move on. And but always make sure the first 4 points really important. Please don't miss these basics at an online interview, right? Like I told you, ඔයාගේ CV එකේ ඔයා මොන හොඳ දේ කරලා තිබුණත් වැඩක් නැහැ. කොච්චර A+ student කෙනෙක් වුණත් වැඩක් නැහැ, right? If you are not good with these basics. It's simple as that. Right. So getting prepared for an interview, right? So what do you need to do? Now you will get a call, right? Saying that, okay, you have been called in for the interview, maybe for an internship, maybe in merchandising. Let's say, for example, it's merchandising, right? So now you might not know what merchandising is. And what is Amarvita? Api call kalla kiwama, we want to interview you for a internship in merchandising. What සමහරට merchandising කියන වචනේ හරියට ඇහෙන්නෙත් නැතුව ඇති. මොකද ඔයා ඒක ගැන කවදාවත් අහලා නැහැ, දන්නේ නැහැ, right? Then call us back. Call us back and ask, මොකක්ද position එක? What's the position? I didn't understand. Can you please repeat? Right? Also you can ask us, I don't know what merchandising is. Where can I find details about it? Right? නැත්නම් what is merchandising? Ask. Question, right? Get to know. Only then you can do the research, right? So here we have given you a couple of points. Getting prepared for an interview, right? So first you need to research about the company. A very common question in any interview is, what do you know about the company? If you're applying to MAS, right? Why are you applying to MAS, right? What do you know about MAS? The values of MAS, is it something that you can agree with, right? සමහරට අපි අපේ company එකක් විදියට අපි follow කරන values ඔයා person කෙනෙක් විදියට disagree කරන value එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්, right? එහෙමනම් ඇයි ඔයා MAS එකට එන්නේ, right? So your values, company goals, your goals, job description, your skills. Then again, job description and the key responsibilities, right? Everything should match at least 80% of it, right? එහෙම match වෙන්නේ නැත්නම්, right? I don't see why you should apply for the job in the first place, right? So research about the company, the vision, the mission, the values, our finances. Are we a profit-making company, right? නැත්නම් මේ තියෙන economical situation එකත් එක්ක අපි drown වෙන company එකක්ද? Right? එහෙනම් මම අලුත් කෙනෙක් විදියට ආවොත් මට මොනවාද මේ කම්පැනි එකෙන් දෙන්නේ? So you need to know, right? Then get thorough with your CV. I think you all have already had a session about CV writing. I think it was with Unilever, if I'm not mistaken, when I saw that video clip. So CV එකේ මොනවාද දාන්නේ? හරි? ගොඩාක් CVs වල තියෙන ලොකුම වැරද්ද තමයි ඔයාගේම බැච් එකේ ඉන්න තව කෙනෙක්ගේ CV එකක copy paste එකක් තමයි ඔයා හදලා තියෙන්නේ. But ඔයාගේ details ටික විතරක් ඒකට customize කරලා දාලා තියෙනවා. නමුත් අපි interviewers ලා විදියට, recruiters ලා විදියට, we go through thousands and thousands of CVs. So අපි CV එකක් දැක්කහම දන්නවා කොහොමද මෙයා මේ CV එක derive කරේ කියලා, right? So Jayawardhanapura University එකේ maybe y'all are all following the same CV format. Why? What for? Why are you doing that? Don't do it. Right? Do you know how boring it is? හරි. දැන් මේ session එකේ ඉන්නවා 182 people, excluding me 181 or 80 maybe. Right? දැන් මම ඕගලන් series 50ක් කිව්ව කියන්නකෝ. දැන් මේ session එකෙන් පස්සේ y'all are very interested to be a part of MAs and you're sending the CVs to us, right? දැන් ඔක්කොම 50ම එකම format එකෙන් නම් තියෙන්නේ. දැන් මට මොකද්ද හිතෙන්නේ කියලා නිකන් හිතන්න. No, like there is absolutely no difference in these CVs, 50 CVs. මොකද university එකෙන් දීපු format එක ඒක නිසා. නැත්තම් class එකේ ඉන්න හොඳම student ගේ CV එක තියෙන්නේ ඒ format එකේ නිසා. Or it can be any reason really, right? So all the 50 students are using the same format. Why are you doing it? Don't do it. Be creative, right? Go again, go on Google, look for better CV formats, right? කවුරුත් CV format එක වෙනස් කරා කියලා ඔයාව penalize කරන්නේ නැහැ. ගොඩක් අය in the modern world we look for a one page CV because it's easy for us to go through all the details in a glance, right? එතකොට CV එකේ ඔයා මොනවාද දාලා තියෙන්නේ? දැන් ඔයාගේ යහපැත්තේ යාළුවා දාලා තියෙනවා strengths එයාගේ this and that. දැන් ඔයත් දානවා strengths is the same thing. So as an interviewer, if I question you, right, why is this your strength? ඔයා මොකද්ද කියන්නේ? මොකද ඇත්තටම ඒක ඔයාගේ strength එක නෙමෙයි. ඔයා යාළුවා දාලා තියෙන නිසා ඔයාත් දාලා තියෙනවා, right? So you're going to get stuck. So whenever you're sharing your CV with any company, you need to make sure that all the details in your CV is 100% accurate, right? And that you know what is in the CV. CV එකේ මොනවාද තියෙන්නේ කියලා ඔයා දැනගන්න ඕනේ. මොකද CV එක බේස් කරගෙන තමයි මම ඔයාගෙන් questions අහන්නේ. Right? Then study the JD, right? So JD is the job description. ඕනම careers page එකකට ගියොත් ඒ job එකක් ගිහිලා search කරොත් හැම job එකකටම දීලා තියෙනවා key responsibilities. ඊට පස්සේ දීලා තියෙනවා ඒකට අවශ්‍ය වෙන qualifications and skills, right? So මේ දෙක you should by heart it, especially the key responsibilities. So when the interviewer asks you, ඇයි අපි ඔයාව select කරගන්න ඕනේ? Why do you think that you're the best fit for this job, right? You have to relate it to everything that is there in the JD. So for example, merchandising job role එකක්ම ගමු. Let's say for a key responsibility it says you need to meet strict deadlines, right? So ඒක තමයි JD එකේ තියෙන key responsibility එක. එතකොට ඔයා as a person, you have been a project leader. So project taker, you have finished it on time, right? Now you bring these two together. So when I went through the job description for this role, it mentioned that we have to work with strict deadlines. So as a person, I am someone who is very comfortable with doing that because I have been a project manager at the university for this particular project, and I worked with 10 other team members, and we were able to successfully complete it a day before the given deadline. So that's a very positive, way to put yourself out there. As an interviewer, I will also be impressed. This person has gone through the JD. This person knows what the role is. This person has some previous experience, which goes in hand with what is required for the job. අපි දන්නවා මොකද ඔයා ඒ විදිහට තමයි ඔයාව අපිට project කරන්නේ, right? Then test your technology. We spoke about it. Practice your pitch. So practice your pitch again is something to do with the introduction to yourself. Then හැම ඕනම interview එකක, a lot of interviews will start by asking you to introduce yourself. එතකොට අපි commonly කරන mistake එක තමයි we always start with our name, age, residential area, school, university, the program that you study, third year, final year, blah, 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 right? So we don't need to know that. It's already there in the CV, right? Your name, your age, your university, right? Where you live. everything is there, right? So ඇයි ඒකේ තියෙන දේම අපිට ආපහු කියන්නේ? We don't want to know, right? අපි ඕගලන්ගේ CV එක go through කරලා තමයි මේ interview එකට ඔයාට කතා කරන්නේ. So CV එක ගැන දන්නේ නැතුව නෙමෙයි අපි ඔයාට introduction එකක් දෙන්න කියන්නේ. So start with something new. Start with something different. Like maybe you can start with what you're passionate about. You can always say, you don't even need to tell your name because we already know your name, right? So don't go for basic traditional ways of introducing yourself. You need to introduce yourself. You need to pitch about yourself in a way that the interviewer feels interested to keep on asking you questions, right? So that you need to really, really prepare yourself with. Then find a suitable place to connect. We already spoke about it. Then hold on, we have a few questions on the chat. But I am planning to do a job too. Yeah, whether you can negotiate where you go for an interview. Yeah, for sure. If you are studying something at the moment and you're unable to attend online classes, or you're maybe unable to probably relocate because you have to attend classes physically, be open about it. That's not a problem at all. Are internships only for undergraduates? No, internships are not only for undergraduates. We offer internships for graduates as well. It's not necessary that graduates go directly to a job. It's always a good way to start with an internship. So that's not a problem at all. Do you check for university grades when you're hiring? So when you say university grades, I suppose you're talking about first class, second class, things like that. Not really. When we go through the CV, if you are a first class honor student, yeah, it's a good thing. But just because you are a second class lower, we are not going to, not shortlist you. The educational qualification is only one thing that we look for. So don't worry too much about it. Right? Okay, then moving on, starting with your pitch. So I spoke about this. Your self-introduction, your profile, background, attitude, your accomplishments, and how fit are you for this job. Connect with the job description again, right? So when we talk about who are you, we talk about your profile, right? Not about your name, age, blah, 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 right? You have to start with your accomplishments. What have you achieved? Are you a national player? Are you a hiker? Have you participated for about 20-30 marathons? Are you a voluntary worker? Are you an ice hacker? I don't know. Whatever it is, start with something that is really, really interesting. Don't make it boring at the beginning of the interview. Then why do you want to work here? During now all of these conversations happen at the time we are having the interview, right? So we will be asking you, like I said before, why do you want to be a part of this organization? Why did you apply to MAS? What do you know about MAS, right? So you need to be prepared. Like if you are coming into MAS, what is MAS, right? A lot of people, commonly we are known as Mass Holdings, but that is not the correct way to pronounce it. It's MAS, right? If you come to the interview and tell me that you want to join Mass Holdings because this, එතනින්ම I know that okay. Research එක කරලා නැහැ. Company එකේ වැඩ කරන කෙනෙක්ට කතා කරලා නැහැ, right? So if you spoke to someone working in the company, if you have spoke to your seniors, right, who have done internships in the company or who are currently employed at MAS, you will know. MAS කියලා නෙමෙයි කියන්නේ. MAS කියලායි කියන්නේ, right? Do you know the correct way to pronounce the organization's name? This is a very common mistake, right? Not only for MAS, but even for so many other companies around the world, right? You can always Google it, or you can ask someone, is this the correct way to say the name of the company, right? There is nothing to be worried about checking things like that, because attention to detail is really, really important, right? So that's number one. Then again, connect to the JD, research about the JD, talk to, like, if you're applying for a merchandising role, talk to merchandisers on LinkedIn, connect with them. It's just a message, right? Just ask them, hi, I am going to be interviewed for a position like this. Can you tell me a little bit about the role, right? Even also there are candidates who does things like this. So when we send the calendar invite, you can see the name of the person, right? Like, for example, if I send a calendar invite, they will go on LinkedIn and they will search for me, Venuri Wanniarachchi, right? And they will message me on LinkedIn and ask, I'm having an interview tomorrow for this position, but I am very new to this industry, or I am someone who is coming as a fresh graduate, so I don't know what this role is about. Can you please tell me? We will be more than happy to do this for you, right? You might not get an immediate response, but we will definitely get back to you before the interview, right? So that way you're showing your positive side. Then I will also remember, this candidate connected with me, he or she asked me about it, so I know that this person is really preparing for the interview, right? So during the interview, then you can talk about everything that you learned by going through the job description. Then the strengths and weaknesses, right? So important things about the strengths and weaknesses is that strengths, talk about it freely, right? Go ahead, put it out there, tell everything, right? The interviewer is there to listen. So don't think that I'm taking too long. So don't go ahead with boring stuff also, right? Don't keep explaining it for a long time. Just what you did and why do you think it's a strength, right? Then weaknesses, very important, but this can also become a disadvantage to you if you talk about it in the wrong way or if you pitch it in the wrong way, right? So for example, like I said before, if you are coming for a merchandising role and as a weakness, you're telling the interviewer that you're unable to meet deadlines. But JDA ke මුලින්ම තියෙන්නේ that you should be able to work with strict deadlines කියලා. එතනින්ම ඉතින් no chance no, right? So ඒ වගේ ඔයාගේ weaknesses උනත් සමහර වෙලාවට සමහර වෙලාවට weaknesses ඔයාගාව තියෙන ඒවා ඇත්තටම මේ කියන job එකට effect වෙන්න පුළුවන්. but ඒක ඔයා කියන විදිය හරිම important. නිකන් එකපාරටම දමල ගැහුවා වගේ කියන්න එපා. ඔයාට කියන්න පුළුවන්, I know that this is a weakness of mine, but I have done this thing to develop it or improve myself. And when I started with this weakness, I was here. මං මේ weakness එක අඳුරගත්තේ මොකද මට මේ project එක දීලා මට මේක ඉවර කරගන්න බැරි වුණා. හැබැයි මං ඇනලයිස් කරලා බැලුවා මේ ඩිලේස් වලට මොනවාද හේතු, right? එතකොට මම හොයාගත්තා මෙන්න මේ reasons නිසා තමයි මට project එක වෙලාවට ඉවර කරගන්න බැරි වුණේ කියලා. but මම challenge එකක් අරගෙන ඊළඟ project එකත් බාරගත්තා. and that I successfully completed on time, right? Simple as that. Okay, so please make sure when you are, definitely the interviewer will ask, so now you spoke about your strengths, tell me about your weaknesses, right? And kavadavat, don't say that you can't think about a weakness right now, or you are not someone who seems to have any weaknesses. එහෙම කට්ටිය මේ ලෝකේ නැහැ, right? Everyone, no matter how experienced you are, you do have weaknesses. That is why the SWOT is important. අඩුම තරමේ weaknesses දෙකක් identify කරලා තියාගන්න, right? So when someone asks you, you can answer the question without a hesitation, right? හැබැයි what you have to remember is ඔයා කියන weakness එක ඔයා apply කරලා තියෙන job එකට effect වෙන්න දෙන්න එපා, right? interviewer ට හිතනවා නම් ඔයා මේ job එකට apply කරන ගමන් මේ weakness එක නිසා job එක කරගන්න බැරුව යයි කියලා, ඒක ඊට වඩා ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක්. So make always be mindful about the way that you pitch your weaknesses to the interviewer, right? Then next one, tell me about a time incident project. So I told you, right? Whenever we question an interviewee or the candidate, අපි ඒගොල්ලන්ගෙන් අහනවා, හරි දැන් ඔයා මට කියනවා ඔයාට මේ strength එක තියෙනවා, දැන් මට කියන්න example එකක්. So for example, ගොඩාක් students ලා ගොඩාක් candidates ලා CV එකේ දාන strength එකක් තමයි communication, right? And the other one is leadership. දැන් මේක ගොඩාක් අය දාන්නම් වාලේ දානවා. මොකද ඕක තමයි දාන්න ලේසිම දෙක. right? but ඇත්තටම ඔයා ඒ දෙකට සම්බන්ධව strength එක තියනවා කියලා කොහොමද දන්නේ? Is it because you are well versed in English? Is it because you are a debater? Right? Just because you can speak in English, it doesn't mean that you are good in your communication. Right? Just because you have won all the Padya Rachana and all of that, it doesn't mean that you are good in communication. Communication is a whole other subject, right? Leadership also the same thing, right? Sometimes it can be maybe you were a prefect when you were at school, right? but while you were a prefect, ඔයා කළා තියෙන එකම දෙයයි මොකද්ද? පඩිපෙළ ළඟ ඉඳගෙන ඩියුටි කරපු එක. දැන් ඒක ලීඩර්ෂිප් ක්වොලිටි එකක්ද? ඒකේ මොකද්ද තියෙන ලීඩර්ෂිප් ක්වොලිටි එක? ඔයා ඒක බේස් කරගෙන නම් කියන්නේ ඔයා ලීඩර්ෂිප් කියන එක ඔයාගේ ස්ට්‍රෙන්ත් එකක් කියලා. How are you going to explain it to the interviewer if I ask you, okay, tell me an incident where you showed leadership qualities? Then what explain කරන්න බැරුව යනවනේ, right? So if you are going to put leadership as a part of your strength, එහෙනම් ඔයා අඩුම තරමේ projects දෙකක් තුනක් මොකක් හරි society එකක, right? You should have been like a secretary, maybe a director, right? A team leader, right? You should have held certain leadership positions so that you can clearly explain the incident of how you showed leadership qualities. දැන් ඔයා project එකක involve වෙලා හිටියානම්, ඔයා ඒකේ leader වෙලා හිටියානම් කොච්චර ලේසිද බලන්න strength එකට. Like when we ask you the question, it's so easy to answer the question. Simply you have to say, yes, in the university we took up a challenge, right? Maybe for example, it was a quiz competition. So I made a team of 5 people. I took the leadership, right? And we participated for the challenge. So during the challenge, all 5 of us were equally given chances to answer questions. But there was 1 or maybe 2 tasks where some of my team members found it difficult and they didn't really understand. So I supported them, I guided them, and we were able to become maybe second runner up. I don't know, right? Like I told you before, important thing is not to win and it's not to achieve the goal, right? It's about what you have done to be there or to go there, right? Or to achieve that goal. So whenever you're putting strengths into your CV, make sure that you have a story to tell behind it. Nikang දාන්න තියෙන නිසා, Google එකේ තියෙන නිසා, these are the most captivating skills when you're writing a CV, don't put it, right? Only if you have really experienced it as a strength, go ahead and put it, right? Then where do you want to see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Another very common question that the candidates don't really know how to answer, right? So ඕනම candidate කෙනෙක්ගෙන්, especially fresh graduate කෙනෙක්ගෙන් නැත්නම් undergraduate කෙනෙක්ගෙන් මේ question එක ඇහුවාම the most common answer is, I want to be a manager, right? This is what they say, right? Then again, you have not analyzed how the market works or how this industry works or how you get an opportunity to go to the next level and how long it takes to go to the next level, right? So basically, within 5 years, it's very rare that you get to start as an executive and reach a managerial position, right? It's a black and white thing. To become a manager, right? Do you know how much of skills, how much of qualities you need to have inside of you as a person, right? Becoming a manager is one of the toughest things to do, right? It's everyone just assumes it with the designation manager. It's a good thing to have. And හැමෝම එකයි හිතන්නේ මට ඇවිල්ලා අවුරුදු 5න් මැනේජර් කෙනෙක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. No, absolutely not, right? There might be chances for you to become a manager in a smaller company, where there is a very lesser head count. ඒ team එකේ ඉන්නේ 50ක් 60ක් වගේ පිරිසක් නම් ඔයා ඒ team එකේ star නම් Definitely, maybe within even lesser than 5 years, you can become a manager. But if you come into organization like MAS, right? What is our head count? 98,000 people, right? දැන් මේ 98,000 එකේ ඇතුළට ඔයා ඇවිල්ලා and you're coming in as an intern, not even a permanent opportunity, right? Where you have to perform, show who you are, and if there is an opportunity, we will be recruiting you as an executive, and from there onwards, you need to go up, right? So in a company with so many employees, how do you expect to become a manager within 5 years? Okay, so that's why we always tell you all to do your background research. 10 years, possible. Definitely possible. If you tell me that within 10 years you're planning to, become a senior executive, then you want to, become an assistant manager, I will agree on that totally as an interviewer, because 10 years is a good time to grow as a person professionally, personally, and reach the next steps of the ladder, right? So I would suggest when answering questions like this, try to not quote things like, I want to become a manager. It's very common. And we ourselves know with the experiences that we have had that within 5 years, it's actually not very possible. Not at least not in a company that is large as ours. Maybe in another company, it can happen, right? But you can always say things like, you're passionate about doing something like this. So you're planning to, continue to do that within the next 5 years. There are so many undergraduates, graduates who are conducting their own tuition classes online, physically. It's a good thing to do. So you can speak about things like that also. It's not just with regards to this job that we are talking about. When we ask you, what do you want to become in the next 5 years? You can tell us, I have been tutoring maybe O level students, grade one students for the last couple of years. And within the next 5 years, I plan it to make it my own company, or I want to bring in my own institute. Can be anything, right? Just don't always say that you want to become a manager. It's the most boring answer we could ever hear, right? Be a little creative. Okay, last one about this is we will always give you an opportunity to ask questions. So at the end of every interview, we will tell the candidate, or we will basically ask the candidate, would you like to, ask any questions from us? Or do you have any clarifications? Do you have any questions for us, right? You have to ask questions. Don't just say no, right? Why will you not have questions? Now we discuss certain things. I told you certain things. You told me certain things. I questioned you based on that. So why are you not questioning me? You ask me what if I'm going to take this role, right? What will you offer me, right? What are my responsibilities from here? Where can I go in the next 3 years, right? Do I have to be a merchandiser for the rest of my life at MAS, right? And if you are a fresh graduate and you know nothing about merchandising, are you going to provide training? Are you going to tell me what I need to do if I'm selected for this opportunity so that I can do a better job, right? So please ask questions, and it's better if you can ask open-ended questions. Open-ended means the person will have more space to, give a elaborated answer. But if you ask a closed-ended question, we will have to just say yes, no, something like that, right? So ask open-ended question and ask meaningful questions, not just stupid things, right? Because that is the only 2 to 3 minutes that you will get to have an interaction with the interviewer and clarify any doubts that you have, right? So please make use of that 2 minutes or 1 minute to clarify anything that you would want to clarify. And if you now, when I explain about you, that when the interviewer is talking to you about the role, right? I will tell you, we want this from you, we want that from you, this is what we can give, this we can't give, right? And if there is anything that you didn't understand, take this chance and ask the question, get it clarified, right? So when you go for the next round of interviews, you don't have anything to clarify as such, right? So this is what you need to do during the interview. Right. Then I think we are coming to the last part of the presentation also. Right. And I think we have about another 10 minutes more to close it off. But I would also like to do a mock interview with maybe one or two students just to see what your idea is about when facing an online interview, since we spoke for a long time. So a couple of tips for a successful interview, right? Arrive on time, we spoke about it. Physical or virtual, 10 minutes earlier. Mirror the dress code, dress to impress. I really request you to please pay attention to that point. Don't just come in t-shirts and casual wear for interviews. Create the right environment, right? Make sure that there is no one to disturb, right? No one walking here and there. No one is sitting in front of you. Close all the other tabs in your laptop. Email, right? Any other chat boxes, Facebook, anything that you have opened on your laptop, please make sure that all the pages are closed and all the notifications are muted on your phone, on your laptop, right? Because the moment you hear a notification, you're just going to look at it, right? Your attention is going to go all around the place, right? Like for example, let's say you are connecting to an interview, but just couple of minutes before the interview you had a big argument with your boyfriend or girlfriend, right? So firstly, you're not in the mood for the interview, right? Because already you're under a very stressful sort of a environment in your head, right? Even if you are prepared, now again ඔළුව අවුල් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. මොකද රණ්ඩුවකින් පස්සේනේ දැන් මේ ඉන්ටර්විව් එකට එන්නේ. right? එතකොට රණ්ඩු වුණායින් පස්සේ boyfriend හරි girlfriend හරි එක්ක එයා call කරනකොට ඔයා answer කරේ නැත්නම් ආයි ප්‍රශ්නයක්. right? එතකොට ඔයා phone එක දිහා බලාගෙන ඉන්න ඕනේ එයා call කරන එක cut කරන්න. right? දැන් එයාටත් අමතක වෙලා ඇති මෙයා දැන් තව පොඩ්ඩකින් interview එකකට connect වෙනවා කියලා. මොකද රණ්ඩු වෙලානේ ඉන්නේ දැන්. right? එතකොට එයා messages එවනවා ඇයි answer කරන්නේ නැත්තේ මාව එපාද and all of that crap in the world, right? So that is why the environment is important. So don't take it lightly. While you are at the interview, if you are getting messages like that, how can you concentrate on the interview? You can't do it, right? So that is why put your phone away, close all the other tabs on your laptop, right? And be focused only on the interview. So background, distraction, family members and pets. සමහර වෙලාවට when we do interviews, ගෙදර ඉන්න බල්ලෝ ඔක්කොම පූසු දුවගෙන එනවා. I think ඔයත් එක්ක ඉන්න interview එක කරන වෙලාවට. And candidates are asking us whether it's okay. එතකොට what do we say? What are we supposed to say? Like what should be our answer? අපි එපා කියන්නද? We will look so inhumane, right? pet කෙනෙක්ට මෙතන ඉන්න එපා කියනවා කියලා. You have to know, it's common sense. කොහොමද මේ pet උකුල තියාගෙන interview එකක් කරන්නේ? You can't do that, right? So put them all out, lock the door, right? And tell your mother, father, or whoever is at home that you're going for an interview. Please keep it calm and quiet for 20 to 30 minutes, right? Then unwanted tabs we spoke about. Body language, extremely important. So how you move your hands, your facial expressions, right? And then how you project yourself. Are you confident? Are you nervous? Are you stammering? Things like that. Some people stammer because it's just the way that they talk. ඒ වගේ දේවල් වලට අපි කවදාවත් we never discriminate, right? And also some people forget answers because they are nervous. So ඒ වගේ වෙලාවට ඔයා interview එක පටන් ගත්තාම දැන් introduce yourself කියලා කිව්වම සමහර ළමයින්ට නමත් අමතක වෙනවා, right? That is because it's their first interview of their lives. So ඒක normal දෙයක් to become nervous, to become scared, to become shy. ඔයා කතා කරන්නේ කවදාවත් ඔයා දැකලා නැති දන්නේ නැති මිනිස්සෙක්ට. ඉතින් එහෙම වෙන එක සාධාරණයි, right? එතකොට tell the interviewer, please give me 1 minute until I get myself together or until I get my thoughts together. Ask for it. අපි කවදාවත් ඒ වගේ දේවල් වලට candidates ලව penalize කරන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද ඔයා confident නැතුව answer කරනවට වඩා හොඳයි ඒ 1 minute එක අරගෙන rearrange your thoughts, Rearrange it all in your mind, right? And think, okay, I was going to say this, I was going to say this. And if you have written any notes, look at it. It's okay. No one is going to say anything, right? Take a minute, calm yourself down, tell the interviewer, please give me a minute, right? And start from the top. දැන් ඔගලා බලලා ඇතිනේ America's Got Talent, right? What else is there? There are so many other programs like that, right? So even in auditions like that, when they're happening live in front of a massive crowd, right? එතන firstly කියන්න එනකොට ඒගොල්ලන්ට වැරදෙනවා. So එතකොට මොකක්ද කියන්නේ? Give me a minute, give me one more chance. We'll take it from the top, right? So judges are open to that. We are also like that because we understand that this person is excited, nervous, scared, you know. So if you feel that you're not ready to answer the question or you're feeling really, really nervous, right? Just tell the interviewer, Mata, please give me 1 minute. I'll answer the question, right? Then when you're ready, you tell the interviewer, okay, I'm ready now. Please go ahead, right? So eye contact, you know, don't ever look away when the interviewer is speaking to you. And when you're answering, please look at the interviewer, right? මොකද අපි මිනිස්සෙක්ටනේ කතා කරන්නේ. දැන් මම කතා කරනකොට ඔයාහක බලන් ඉන්නවා නම් එතකොට I lose my interest. Why should I speak to someone who is not paying attention to me, right? So you need to keep these things in mind. I know that there are lots of things. දැන් අපි කතා කරපු ඒවල ගොඩක් දේවල් තියෙනවා. ඒක ඇත්ත. But මේ හැම දෙයක්ම is important, equally important. And මේ එක දෙයක් හරි මග ඇරුණොත් සමහර විට ඔයා ඉන්ටර්විව් එකකින් fail වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So please keep these things in mind. And I think this is a recorded session. So if you want to go back to the slides or if you want to ask any questions, please go ahead because we are always available to support. Then take notes, use notes when necessary. So if I am explaining something to you, right, and if you feel the need to take notes about it, for example, the job role, salary expectations and things like that, go ahead and write it. But you have to tell the interviewer, you know, I am taking notes. Is it okay? Right? No problem. We are more than okay for you to do it because maybe after the interview, you might not remember everything. It's a normal thing. අපි කොච්චර දේවල් interviews වල කතා කරනවද? So take note, no problem. Then thanking note and follow-up email. So the thanking note, why we have put it is just because you can build a good relationship then. So after an interview, make a candidates la commonly කරන දෙයක් නෙමෙයි. Actually, very limited number of candidates do this, but we have nothing against it. ඒක කරත් it's okay, නොකරත් it's okay because it's up to the candidate. But after you do the interview, it's always good to, you know, sort of send a thanking note, appreciating the time that you were given for the interview and even that conversation. You know, you might find that conversation really interesting, insightful. You know, you might have learned something new from that conversation we had at the time of the interview. So, I mean, why not thank the person, you know? And then the follow-up email is with regards to your feedback. So, Samaneng, after we do an interview, right, there are so many other steps. We are doing maybe the initial HR interview, then you will have an interview with the business team, and so on and so forth, right? So sometimes interviews can take up to 3 to 4 weeks even to finalize because we just don't interview only one candidate for a position. For a particular position, we can maybe interview for one opening, we can maybe interview about 15 to 20 people, right? So ඔය 15ටම 20ටම අද ඉන්ටර්විව් එක කරා නම් හෙට ෆීඩ්බැක් එක දෙන්න බෑ. We also need some time, right? So interview එක කරලා සති දෙකකින්වත් ඔයාට කිසිම feedback එකක් ආවේ නැත්නම් about a second interview or whether you have been selected or not, then you can write to the person and ask, you know, I had an interview on this date and and I haven't heard back. Will you be kind enough to please provide a feedback, right? Don't repeatedly call because it's really difficult for interviewers or people working in the recruitment teams to answer calls because we are always at interviews, right? Or always connected to a meeting. So without disturbing the person, maybe send an email or maybe just drop a text message if you have the contact number and try to get a feedback, right? Right. Then moving on to things that you should not do at the time of an interview. Don't ask about the perks. So when we say perks, this is mainly about the salary and the package that you're going to get. So if you're an experienced candidate, it's a given. You need to ask this because කියන්නේ ඔයාට experience එක තියෙනවා නම් ඒ කියන්නේ දැන්ටමත් ඔයා වැඩ කරන කෙනෙක්, right? සහ ඔයාට දැන්ටමත් salary එක හම්බ වෙන කෙනෙක්. So එතකොට ඔයාට දැන් හම්බ වෙන salary එක මොකද්ද? ඔයාට දෙන්න පුළුවන් ගාන කීයද? කියන එක අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම candidate කෙනෙක් question කරන දෙයක්. But ඔයා එන්නේ internship එකකට නම් or if you are coming as a fresh graduate, right? We don't encourage you to ask this question only because sometimes it can project negatively. Like if you are too concerned about the perks, මොනවාද හම්බෙන්නේ කීයක්ද හම්බෙන්නේ මේට වඩා මේ ගාන දෙන්න බැයිද මගේ යාළුවාට මෙච්චර හම්බුණා මට ඕගොල්ලෝයි මට මෙච්චරක් offer කරන්න, you know, things like that can offend really. Even though you're a good candidate, it's true that you should know what you're going to get out of it in terms of monetary benefits. It's okay to ask. We are not saying completely never to ask about it. But then, if you are coming for an internship, why are you worried about the perks? All that you need to worry about is whether you can get a good training, whether the internship experience will add value to you as an individual, right? Perks will not matter then. The perk will be that you will get a good training, you will get a good internship experience, right? You will find space to develop and things like that, right? So that's one thing that you should not ask, or even if you ask, please make sure that you are very polite about it, not too fussy, not too aggressive, not too concerned about it. Then don't badmouth your current job, right? So why we are saying this is when experienced candidates come in for interviews, right? We always ask them, why are you looking to move from your current company? Because even right now you are an executive, what we are offering is also an executive position. Why do you want to, move? Then sometimes they might badmouth their current company. They might badmouth their current line manager, right? So we don't encourage conversations like that. We don't want to know the negative sides of your current workplace because, at the end of the day, they are providing for you, right? You're working for them. They are paying a salary to you. And all this time you have survived with, that salary that was paid. So we don't want to know the negativities like that. We don't want to, really hear you bad mouthing your current company. And it will also reflect negatively on you because we will think, Hari, දැන් මෙයා current company එක ගැන මෙහෙම කියනවා. දැන් MS එකටත් ඇවිල්ලා මෙතනින් කවදා හරි යන්න ඕන වුණාම මෙයා මොනා කියලා යයිද? Not that we might not be as bad as the current company, but why do you need to say negative things like that, right? So give a solid reason. Maybe it can be career growth. Maybe it can be it's a role enhancement, right? Use something like that. Don't badmouth ever. Then don't show that you don't know. Don't show that you don't know much about the organization. Yeah, so this we already spoke about. If I ask you what do you know about MAs, please don't come to the interview and say I don't know, right? Seriously, it is not even a valid reason anymore. There can't be a valid reason for you to not know about the company that you're coming for an interview for. Everyone uses smartphones, right? I'm sure all of you have laptops or at least a desktop at home because that is a requirement, that is a basic need these days. You just have to Google it, right? You might not be able to keep all the information about the company in your head, so take notes, right? Don't memorize and don't tell everything that's there on Google. Write the important things and talk about it, right? Okay, and finally, don't say that you have not been selected from many interviews. Yeah, so this question also we ask, sometimes we look at some people's CVs and they have graduated in 2020, and even in 2022 they are still unemployed, right? So we ask them, what have you been doing for 2 years? Have you not applied for any other jobs, right? Or what went wrong that you couldn't be employed for so many years? Then you need to come up with a good reason. Please don't say things like, because of COVID I applied and no one was recruiting. We all know that it's not true, right? Even during COVID, even after COVID, true that there were layoffs that took place, but companies have kept recruiting, right? And if you don't have an internship experience, like we told you before, please start working on one, because we will ask you after, when you were a graduate or when you were an undergraduate, were you not doing an internship? It's really a mandatory sort of requirement in the current context. Internship experience really helps when you try to apply for a permanent opportunity, right? So yeah. Then this is, I think, the final slide of the presentation. And okay, we are 10 minutes past the time. So these are some of the words that we can suggest for you to use at the time of the interview, right? So these, knowing these words can give you like an extra edge where, you use words like this and the interviewer knows that, they have done some research, and these are some common words that, uh, a good candidate would use, like continuous improvement, open to learn, quick learner, right? Self-disciplined, then good in relationship building. Positive words to use at the time of an interview, right? So with that, we are coming to the end of the presentation. And just to on the ending note, this says, they may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel, right? So interviews, it's a whole feeling, right, about getting to know another person. And that 20 to 15 minutes, we are going to judge you as a candidate in every aspect: personality, qualifications, everything, right? So you need to make me feel that you're an extraordinary person, or you're a star, or you can give it all if you are selected, right? So sometimes what you say is not really important, because we know that people prepare a lot for interviews and they say a lot, and some people are really good with talking. ඕන වෙලාවක ඕන ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඇහුවොත් දෙන්න උත්තරයක් තියෙනවා. ඉංග්‍රීසි වලින් ඇහුවත් එහෙමයි, සිංහලෙන් ඇහුවත් එහෙමයි. හැබැයි ඔයා කියන දේ කිසිම හරයක් නැත්තම්, එහෙනම් again you are losing it, right? හැබැයි ඔයා කියන දේට වඩා ඔයා මට ඔයා ගැන දන්නවපු විදිය තමයි වඩාත්ම වැදගත් වෙන්නේ. මොකද ඒ දේ කවමදාක්වත් ඉන්ටර්වියුවර් කෙනෙක්ට අමතක වෙන්නේ නැති නිසා, right? So that's about it from my end. I would like to take any questions that the students may have. And if anyone is up for maybe a mock interview, we can go ahead and do that as well, only if time permits.
Yes, thank you very much, dear madam. I'm sure the insights that you shared with us today will considerably guide our audience. Dear participants, please submit the Google form that our organizing committee has shared in the chat box to register for the certificate of participation. And now let's move on with the Q&A session. I would like to remind the participants to clarify all the doubts if there are any. You can either use the chat box or you can directly turn on your microphone and direct your questions.
Okay, to explain about our leadership skill ability, can we share about our family personal life experience, like being a firstborn child and taking care of the family? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it can be in any context, personally or maybe university wise. That's not a problem at all. But you have to make sure that it's a solid story, like you're a firstborn child and you're taking care of the family. Maybe you're going through certain struggling times, maybe you have lost a parent, right? No problem, we are open to any personal experience like that, because we also want to hear experiences so that we also can learn out of it, right? When interviewer asks about our future plan for next 5 years, Can we say that to develop my career and contribute for the upliftment of the company with my hard work? Yeah, you can say that definitely. Yeah. Um, you don't need to necessarily say that I want to become a senior executive manager, stuff like that. You can say that you would like to contribute towards the growth of the organization and positively impact the lives of the employees or the team members that you work with. No problem at all. Can you please show us some sample CVs? Right. Okay. Well, I actually don't have any samples at the moment because I was not prepared for it. But I would suggest to maybe Google it. You can find some good samples. Try to keep the CV at a minimum of like a maximum of one page, really. But going up to a second is also not a problem. And some people write cover letters, which is also a good thing, but it's not a mandatory thing. But there are job when you apply for jobs, they have specifically mentioned that a cover letter is required. So go through it and write the cover letter accordingly. Cover letter should mostly be joined with the job description, not just anything about yourself, right? um, Hold on. Why some people lose at interviews because of their family, parents, job types, or location they live? Well, actually, with my experience, we have never penalized a candidate depending on their family, like parents, jobs, or locations that they live. Because, like I told at the beginning, there is no good or bad job or anything like that, right? It's mostly about and what your parents have done is really not going to impact you, because at the end of the day, look where you are today. You're an undergraduate of one of the most reputed universities in Sri Lanka. So it's a great achievement, right? From the context of MAs, we have never penalized a candidate just because your mother or father, I don't know, is working in whatever job it is. It has got nothing to do with the parents. It's all about what you can bring to the table, right? Mm. Madam, what you're saying is that I can practically pick whatever story, but I have to make sure it matches and expresses myself well, right? Well, it's not about picking whatever the story. It's about, firstly, like when you talk, like for example, in the context of talking about your strengths, right? So if leadership is a strength, then your story has to be picked accordingly and not a fake one, right? And not something that you can't answer, because ඔයා කතාව අපිට කිව්වයින් පස්සේ again we are going to question you about it, right? හරි, ඔයා දැන් කිව්වා ඔයාගේ strength එකක් විදිහට ඔයා මේ දේවල් කරා. දැන් මේ කතාව ඇතුලේ ඔයා මේ කියපු මේ one particular දේ ගැන මට තව ටිකක් වැඩිපුර කියන්න, right? So, and but I have to make sure it matches and expresses. Definitely the story has to express about yourself. It's not about any other person, right? And also just make sure that the story that you're saying, then ඔය match වෙන්න කියන කතාව job එකේ requirement එකට හානියක් වෙන්නේ නැති දෙයක් වෙන්න ඕනේ. බොරු දෙයක් කියනවා නෙමෙයි. ඇත්ත කියන්න, හැබැයි you have to be smart. Just because we ask you to say something, හැමදේම කියන්න යන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. But කියන දේ smart විදියට හිතලා හරි විදියට project කරන්න. That's all. I think that's it for the questions, Asini.
Yes, madam. So with that, we have come to the end of Q&A session. Thank you, Ms.Wenuri Wanniarachchi, once again for answering all the questions.
No problem.
Now, as we are close to the end of the session, we would now like to get your valuable feedback from the audience on today's session. You can express your thoughts about today's session either on the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and directly speak to the audience.
Good afternoon, madam.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, madam. Actually, this is a very valuable session. We got clear idea about how to face an online interview. So thank you very much, madam, for sharing your knowledge with us. And again, thank you so much.
No problem. Sorry, what's your name?
Nitmi Hansika.
Thank you so much, Nitmi. Thanks for the feedback. I appreciate it.
Vinuri, good afternoon. So
Good
Chatu
afternoon.
here.
Hi.
Yes, yes, actually, I take this opportunity to thank you and give our thanks to MAs on behalf of the career guidance unit and the university. So thank you very much. Actually, you tried very well to cover up all the things that you need our fresh graduates. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. Thank you for the invite. I mean, it's actually a great opportunity for us also to connect with the students. We don't get to connect much nowadays because of all the restrictions that are going around. But thank you. Thank you. I also focused my time to learn about some of the things that I had to present to the students today. I'm very thankful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your valuable feedbacks. Now we would like to take this opportunity to present our prestigious sponsors for Touch the Peak Annual Job Fair and Entrepreneur Ventures 2022. I'm quite sure that today's workshop expanded the knowledge and confidence of our audience about facing an online interview. Thus, I deem it a great honor to be able to express my gratitude for this valuable session. First and foremost, I would like to thank our resource person today. Thank you very much, dear madam, for spending your immensely valuable time to be here with us today and sharing your knowledge with us. You have helped us to enlighten us with your in-depth knowledge and invaluable expertise and experience. And I would like to take this opportunity to remind all our corporate partners, and we are indeed grateful for MA's Intimates Private Limited for the support and guidance they have given us throughout these years. I express my deep sense of gratitude to Professor Sudat Manjula Amarasena, the Director of the Career Guidance Unit, the Head of the Department of Decision Sciences, for the guidance, encouragement, and support that you have given, making our effort a success. My heartfelt thanks goes to Mrs. Chaturangani Tennakul, Career Advisor of the Career Guides Unit and Senior Treasurer of the Career Skills Development Society, for extending your helping hand at all the moments of need. I thank all the members of the organizing committee for all the support in making this event a success. And last but not the least, I would like to thank our amazing audience for joining us to make this session a success. Thank you very much for your cooperation. With that, we shall mark the end of this session. Don't forget to join us again at 1:30 p.m. with the fifth and the final workshop of Touch the Peak workshop series based on entrepreneurial ventures. Have a good day and stay safe.